Meeting order, if you join us in the pledge, please. Yeah, don't look that way.
Don't look that way.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, if it's alright with everybody, I'm gonna take a few things out of order here. First, I'd like to make a motion to reaffirm all the previous votes of the board.
I second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Like to bring up the proposed parking lot RFP review. Bob, Joe?
Yep.
We created two RFPs, one for the tree brush stump removal for the lot, and the second one was for the modular home in the shed. And when we're ready to move forward on these, we would have to apply for permits to do both.
What's the need of May 7th? Why so far out?
What I did is, for us to be able to view the lot, I was just trying to be post-snow, so we could do a walkthrough. So the dates are just a recommendation, but that's where that comes from.
Because I'm thinking that either one or both of these could possibly be done during April vacation, couldn't they?
I thought we had said that we would look at both at some of the projects. I believe, and we had talked about it in committee.
That we would look at
Both of these as being projects that we would do during the summer.
When school's out, we said.
Yeah.
schools out, but school's out during April vacation.
The other thing you might run into during April vacation is road postings, depending on how things are gonna roll this year.
Good.
You will not need a permit to take out trees, brush, and stumps. I don't believe that's a alteration of terrain. I've never heard of
that lot, though.
What's that?
If we clear cut that lot, isn't there an ordinance in town as far as how much you can take as far as?
I'm not aware of that particular ordinance. I don't.
I think are you thinking about the one where you're near water? You have to when you're near water.
Well, there is that one near water, but I also thought there was another one out there that you were only allowed so much, but.
I'm not aware of
that would have to be something that I double check.
Yeah.
You know, make sure we have that for the next.
It's a land conversion issue, and I don't think that converting a residential lot into a parking lot, removing trees and stuff like that, that's incidental, and I don't think that trees and stumps are. I may be wrong, Joe, but I've never come across that.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. Yeah, we have to ask for the one anyway, for sure.
Right. The demolition is definitely a permit.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe stumps for like the dig safe thing? If you're gonna remove stumps instead of grind them down?
If it's a big stump, nobody's dug under it to bury any lines under there.
Well, out to the sides. I don't know, I'm just saying. I know you don't need to cut trees down.
Right.
You can clear a lot without a permit.
Right.
But I'm not sure about stumps.
It's a land conversion issue as far as I can see. So
we're gonna let them take care of getting the permits, you guys, we just
We'll
have to
take care of
vote
that.
that they get the permits?
Yep.
So we just have to make a motion that they can move forward and get the permits? That's all they need from us, really, because we can discuss
Well-
back and forth a
well,
whole bunch of
Do we
things.
get the permits, or do people doing the job?
I would believe that, you,
9 times out of 10, the contractors should be able to pull those permits for you or tell you what you need for permits before going forward.
but if it's where it's municipality, it may be our facilitator that goes and gets the permits, and where we may be using multiple companies, we're gonna be responsible for the permit. And if we have the permit, we're gonna know that the permit's been pulled, and we're gonna know that it's legitimate, we're gonna know the insides, outsides, upside down, and that's what their job is, so.
Well, that would have to be told with the bid though, because there'll be an extra charge for us if we do the permits.
Well, if you put in the RFP that all permits will be pulled, then they're gonna know that all permits will be pulled.
Do you have something about this, Ed?
Yeah, it's intent to cut. You just gotta pull an intent to cut permit, that's all.
Mr. Chair,
Good.
what we need from the board this evening is to approve the RFPs and any changes that you would like to see happen in the RFP.
So outside of dates, for anyone that's unfamiliar with the document, the last few pages that started attachment A are, some of it are canned details, and then it ultimately gets into specs, if you will.
How does everybody else feel about that date? And the possibility of getting either one of these done in April vacation?
I clearly think that we can get the shed and the building moved April for sure.
You would think so. Yeah, I think you'd most likely be able to get both of these quite possibly done April.
When is April vacation?
April vacation is the last week in
Last
April
week
this
of
year, because the 20th is Easter, and then they have that following week off. But if you're asking for someone to come in and demo, and also clean up all the demo, and then have someone come in and cut trees, brush, and stump removal, I think a 7-day window is, or a 5-day window is a tough accomplishment for both of those to be done.
You can definitely do
The demo, I would think, would be no
True.
problem for a week, but you might want to wait until the first week school gets out to do the trees.
Yeah.
good.
But April vacation is the week of April 21st. And I would be very hesitant to do any of the tree removal and stump removal for that week, particularly if something goes wrong. We don't want it to impact the start of school on the 28th. So,
I don't think that the tree removal should be done, but I think that the demo would be a week would be a perfect time to have that demo done.
sure. Yeah. It's the tree removal.
The tree removal, I would prefer no students to be around and no power lines to go down, and it would be better if school was not in session. Maybe the distraction of the equipment and things like that. But if the demo, I can see the demo being done in a week.
Yeah, easily.
So do we wanna, I like what the RFP looks like for that. I think it's all, do we wanna move ahead and ask for that to be brought up and see if the demo can be done for April vacation? Is that too much of a time constraint? It shouldn't be, right?
No, just change the dates on this, we could get this right out.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then if you have it,
Second day of,
well,
April.
you'd want it before that, so, right, even,
We're gonna have it before that so we can vote on the bid.
right.
And we're gonna wanna make sure that you have ample time to go and get the permits.
the first meeting of April is April
This is
2nd.
the second, but,
Yep.
can we do it for the first? Have it end
Right, so
at
that-
4 o'clock on the first, and then we'd have it for the second?
I would think so, ask them.
Bob, can we do that? And the RFP on the trailer and the shed removal for April 1st? cutoff
so
date of April 1st, like
back to
4
us for
o'clock.
April 1st, okay.
And then so we could have it, on the 2nd and possibly get that taken care of, April vacation.
Good.
Just one point on that, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
And you wouldn't have that information in your packet. It would go out on the Friday before the meeting. So if it would come to us on April 1st.
Right.
So first you would see it would be,
Right, at the meeting.
okay, and that's, you're okay with that?
We could always take a 5-minute recess to just look it over.
Great.
You wanna move the date up on the tree harvest also, or?
No, because if we do that, if we have it for May 7th, they're gonna be able to schedule it for like that week in June when the kids get out, depending on how many snow days we have this year, which we already, yeah.
The 23rd.
They're gonna have 11 days, July 1st through the 11th. Pretty much.
All right, everybody all set?
We need a motion.
Please.
So I would like to make a motion for RFP for the module home and shed removal with the change of the first day of April for the due date. And also the tree, brush, and stump removal with the due date of the 7th of May.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Be back to the regular agenda again.
Yeah, I think we're going back to the agenda. Did we have, the check register?
Yes, it's all there.
Did everyone have a copy of it?
I didn't get a copy of the check register.
That's what,
Oh,
oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute, I think you're there.
I might have got a copy in my packet.
No,
Let me
I
check
think
it out.
they're right here.
No, I didn't get that check. I just got the revenue and all of that expense.
Here they are.
Thank you.
What? You need to borrow your pen again?
Look up this RSA.
Mr. Andrew's not here tonight, but can we get some information about the Mayran computer services? What, isn't, IT people, shouldn't they be taking care of this, or?
Spell it for me, the Mayran.
May is in a month, and then Rand, R-A-N-D.
Mr. Chairman, question on my behalf.
Jerry?
Maybe that was a question on Mayran.
Sure.
Steve, what's the question?
Well, I'm just wondering why this isn't being taken care of by, IT people.
I think those are hardware repairs, and our contract with Back Bay doesn't involve hardware, I don't believe. It's, I think those are probably MacBook repairs or iPad repairs.
I see it, Mr. Chair.
Typically they're not doing that for us.
Nice.
I didn't do it.
Sure you did.
You did it. He did it. That purple fink bird.
Bench time, Jerry.
What's that?
Bench time.
Yeah, it's, I know it's,
Bench time?
we typically
Software.
send software.
No, bench time would be hardware.
No, bench time is
Oh,
working on work on the
hardware.
machine.
It's right here, swap point for the LCD, the good one was spelt milk machine.
Yeah, we've used Mayran for at least the last 2 years that I've been here.
Find out about that for you. Thank you.
Does anybody remember, I don't have my last check register out. Does anybody remember cafe services being on the last? I think it was. Huh?
Not sure if it was on the last one.
I recall it being on the last one, I just,
I don't have mine with me. I filed it. I came over with the,
Yeah, that was.
Actually, yes.
Michael,
Yes, sir.
can you just check on, the double check on the cafe services, for some reason, I remember it being on the last check register.
Cafe services.
Yes, I just wanna make sure that, you know, I mean, they're nice people and all, but I'd rather not pay them
Twice.
precisely. Everybody all set on the manifest? I have a motion to approve the manifest, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. It's just for the sign. Can you just put that over on top of that?
I can.
One there for Michael, please.
I think I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Minutes of the last meeting.
I will make a motion to approve the Wednesday, February 19th, public and non-public meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Did you catch that, Randy? 401. Thank you. Public comment.
Sorry.
So,
I'd like to make a statement and then ask a couple questions. Norma Joy was appointed to the school board on July 10th, 2013. She was sworn in as sitting member on August 6th. In November, there was a statement in the non-public minutes that she rescinded her resignation. There was never a mention of her resigning in prior minutes, public or non-public. In January, Norma Joy signed up to run for the one-year seat on the school board. At her candidate's interview on Clearview TV, it was announced that she was running as a write-in candidate. I wondered why she was running as a write-in when she had signed up for this position. RSA 671:18 and School Board Policy BBBA clearly states that you have to be a registered voter to be a school board member. I have confirmed the RSA with the New Hampshire Secretary of State. I contacted a supervisor of the checklist and confirmed that Norma was not a registered voter when she arrived at deliberative session. She registered to vote at that time. They swore in as a school board member that night. 2 weeks later, at the next school board meeting, the board appointed her. I have the following questions. How can a person be appointed and serve on the school board that's not a registered voter? Did she serve illegally from July to February? What happens when the vote's taken while she was on the board? What about non-public information shared with her? How about someone registered to vote at deliberative session be sworn in as a school board member that night but not reappointed until 2 weeks later? Are there any penalties or consequences for someone serving as a school board member that's not registered vote? Is it a 91A violation to vote to rescind a resignation in non-public? Does this board not follow the laws and its own policies? And I'd like an explanation tonight, and I'd like this in the minutes, and I have a copy for each one of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
anybody else?
Are you not
All
going
right,
to
thank you.
answer those questions?
Excuse me?
Are you not going to answer the questions?
Well, First off, some of your questions are inaccurate, so I don't see the need to answer inaccurate information.
Well, could you clarify that?
But other than that, we'll take it under advisement. Thank you.
Could you give me the accurate information? I mean, voting is Tuesday, and I think the taxpayers, the voters have a right to have the answers to the questions. If it's incorrect, could you please correct it?
We'll take it under advisement. Thank you. Correspondence.
I have one correspondence, Mr. Chair, for the board. I did hear from the Rochester School District. They're looking to set up another area agreement subcommittee meeting, and they were just curious as to what dates and times might work well for the board. Thursdays, they said, are packed for them at this point, so any other day, Thursday and obviously Wednesdays for us would be a problem. So we're looking at Mondays or Tuesdays. I believe our last meeting was on a Monday.
Monday works fine for me.
Monday's fine for me.
I can't be there on Mondays, but I trust the rest of the board to make those decisions.
Can we do it on Tuesday?
What day can you be there?
Right.
Can you be there Tuesday?
I can be there Tuesdays, limited Tuesdays, but yes, I can.
You have a problem with Tuesday?
No, sir.
Time?
What's the date? Sorry.
Any Tuesday.
Do they have an idea of what time of the day they'd want to meet?
No, I believe the majority of their meetings, according to correspondence, are usually around 6 o'clock, so you want to stick to 6? I think our last meeting was at 5.
5, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could say Tuesdays, and, well, I would need to know
Yeah,
if there was a Tuesday that didn't work.
Just go ahead and schedule it, and I'll try and make myself available.
5:30 is better for me.
Okay. Any Tuesday after 5:30?
Sure. I mean, you can do 6 if you want.
Okay.
Look, you rush.
I
but-
like 10 o'clock in the morning myself.
All right.
All right, new business.
I don't have any new business.
Nothing?
Would that be a spot maybe where I might bring up the property on Rhines Road?
Sure.
I was thinking about that the other day, and I thought, driving by, I see there's some harvestable timber, and I think maybe we should look into the idea of doing a timber harvest, taking the monies, perhaps, getting some guidance where the monies could go, but if it help us offset some of the costs of the security items.
That would have to go back to the taxpayers, I think, wouldn't it?
No, the district owns the property, from what I understand. And I think that any harvest done, I'm not sure where the money could, I mean, there's 100 things I could think of to do with it, but I'm not sure of the legal wranglings that have to be done, met. So I guess this is the initial new business part of it that I think we should be thinking about that.
Well,
How many acres are there?
55.
52 acres.
52.
A lot of trees?
There's a sizable amount of harvestable pine, hardwood, and hemlock.
5 years ago, I had 3 acres cleared, 30 cords of hardwood went to me, and the guy that cut the trees down did it for free. He got like 15 grand for the pine. That was just 3 acres.
Yeah. I mean,
That would be nice, because you could utilize it towards security,
It's a great idea.
we could utilize it towards the parking lot.
I think that would have to go back to the taxpayers.
Well, maybe we can ask you to look into that.
Yeah. Through the budget process, we had talked about looking into what the value is of the property. I know Andrew has done that research, so we could bring that information back at the next board meeting, just to give you an idea as to what the property's valued at. Then you could start discussions around whether you want to timber harvest it or
Isn't the
potentially
assessed
sell it.
value like 40?
the assessed value is currently 42, I believe.
And you could get a lot more out of a timber harvest than 42,000.
Oh, yeah.
However, there's potential to sell it higher than the assessed value.
Yeah, but we
Well,
never
yeah.
recoup the
We
cost you
certainly
paid
bought
for
it.
Oh, no,
Not
that's
in
true.
this market.
That's
So
true.
if you just sit on it,
Mm.
timber harvest it, sit on it for another so many years, timber harvest again, maybe wait for things to recoup.
The town paid $300,000 for it, and that's
Yeah.
another issue that under this new business pertaining to this particular lot. Once those monies were raised and appropriated, it was $300,000 that never seemed to have come back out of the school budget. I mean, it was a one-year raise and appropriation, and I'm just curious, how do we discover the history on that? I mean, did it just become an automatic part of the operating budget that never was reduced out of that operating budget? How do I find out that answer?
We would have to research that and bring it back to
Go
the
through the
board.
minutes, yeah.
Yeah, so you're looking for the history
Yeah.
of the Rhines Road purchase?
Well, I know the history of the purchase. I'm just not understanding why when the $300,000 was raised and appropriated, it was supposed to be a one-year shot, and the voters did that. But it doesn't seem as though that $300,000 ever came out of the operating budget after that money was raised and appropriated. It seemed like that $300,000 became part of the operating budget and stuck there and never was reduced back out of it. I may be wrong. I should say that 100 times.
All right, all set. Administration, kneecap results. Mary,
So you have all the graphs in the packet, but I also wanted to display them for you and see if you have any questions as we go through them. Okay, so this is the entire Paul School. This is not cohort data. This is, and let me pull that, why is it? Oh, it's down here. The years are down on the bottom. Hang on, let me go back to that. Hmm? Can you turn the clock on? Is it plugged into the? So we start at 2006, and you'll see that we have the math for Paul School is the red with the squares. The reading for Paul School is the blue with the diamonds. The state math is the purple with the X, and the state reading is the green with the triangles. This is throughout the different years. This is a accumulation of all the grades at Paul School 3 through 8, because those are the grades that are tested. Okay? So as you can see, we have done a really good job of surpassing the state in reading. And you'll notice that we really started taking off in 2010. I have to look down underneath to find the year. So we've done a really good job in reading. Here's our Paul School reading versus the state reading. Here's Paul School math versus the state math. Questions on that graph? Yes.
With the 2013-2014 year, we have that new math program being implemented this year that doesn't.
It does not reflect on this.
This is past
Yes.
curriculum, not the new
This
curriculum.
was correct.
Okay.
Because our testing was in October.
Mhm.
So we only had really 1 month of that, so it won't be reflected in this.
Okay.
Good question.
Mary?
So this is, look.
So
yes.
the year that we actually equaled the state and then surpassed it was 12 of 13.
Yes, correct. But as you can see, there was a steady incline to get us to where we are. So this is 8th grade. The reason why there's a gap here for these two lines is there was no testing for writing done in 2009. You'll notice that in the 8th grade and in the 5th grade. It's only tested in 2 different years, and that is the 8th grade and the 5th grade year. So that's why there's a break in the line. Okay?
Are you talking penmanship type?
No,
Or
writing essay type
writing
writing.
essays?
And again, Paul School has done a great job of our reading scores in the 8th grade versus the state reading, which is the red, and then the math is the green here, and the state is the purple. Writing for the state is the orange, and writing for Paul School is the blue. The other thing that, throughout the years, we've had a nice trajectory of going up with our percent proficiency. Any questions on 8th grade? Now this is the cohort data. The first, and it's probably better if you look at it on the paper as I see it here, because you can see the years on your paper, you can't see the years because it's underneath here. So the first column here is Paul School. It's compared with the state. These are our 8th graders as they were as 3rd graders. Our current 8th graders as they were as 3rd graders. Paul School again is 4th graders compared with the state. Paul School again is 5th graders compared with the state. I want you to understand that the red is the substantially below proficient. Yellow is partially proficient, green is proficient, and the blue is proficient with distinction. And if you take a look, I don't have a ruler that goes that far, but if you take a look at the proficiency level as 3rd graders and the proficiency level as 8th graders for reading, you'll notice that there's a jump. You'll also notice a bigger jump for the proficient with distinction category. So here they are as 3rd graders, here they are as 8th graders. Questions?
For any questions on this specifically, because the way Mary has displayed this is you're following that cohort group. So this is our current 8th grade from 3rd grade all the way through, and what you want to look at is where do they start as percent proficient and where are they as 3rd graders and where are they now as 8th graders, and what you hope to see is an increase. And what we're seeing here for Paul School is that from 3rd grade to 8th grade, our current 8th grade class, there is a slight increase through the years. However, there's somewhat of this roller coaster ride in between. And you're looking for that final outcome as 8th graders to be somewhat higher in proficiency than when they start as 3rd graders.
I think it's also important to note here that if you look at 3rd grade compared to 8th grade, the level of proficiency, doesn't get much, it gets smaller, but it's only because we're taking those students who are in the blue, and you can see that blue on both the 3rd and the 8th grade being the proficient with distinction, being our higher end students who are performing at a higher level. That's increasing, and that's decreasing our proficiency. That's because we're seeing those kids performing, more kids performing at the higher end, and we're seeing a smaller group of kids, so not smaller than 3rd grade, but a decrease from the year before of the students who are performing in the red. And again, there's percentages, so that small percentage up there, looks about 5%, 4%, really equates to 1 student, 2 students.
You do have to take into consideration our numbers are small, so that is true. And this is the math, 3rd grade compared to 8th grade in math. Not as pretty of a picture, unfortunately. These are our 3rd grade, this is our current 8th grade as 3rd grade students at Paul School, and here is our current 8th grade as 8th graders at the Paul School. Yes.
Are these the specific students that we were targeting and using as we made our decision to move to a new math program? Because I'm looking at like the years of everyday math, and then it seems like we hit that 6th grade when they go back to a traditional arithmetic, that they're maybe a little confused, and that's why you might see the little small drop in the proficiency, or the partially proficient gets a little bit bigger, or maybe alters a little bit, and I might be reading it wrong. But is it because of that change in curriculum, and then are they who we based our change on?
Partly, when we looked at the data, when Jerry and I and the committee last year looked at the data, we did look at this data, and we did note at the time when we were looking at math programs that we wanted something consistent all the way through the years, so that would help with some of that confusion. We also wanted something that was based on really good standards, and make sure that it had all of the elements of a good math program. So we looked at all sorts of things, and the data being one of them.
Bonnie, I think also to look at over the course of between 3rd and 6th grade is a steady decline. It wasn't a sharp drop off. You know, you can look at their 3rd grade year, just a little lower in 4th grade and a little lower in 5th grade, and then finally, you know, kind of bottoming out there in 6th grade. So I don't think it was one particular thing. I think it was just, you know, not having a solid grasp of the basic math skills.
Well, I'm wondering if it's the curriculum that we chose, that everyday math and that corkscrew program, because
Yeah.
you know, if the kids just weren't always 100% getting it before the funnel continued.
And that's one of the criticisms for spiraling programs.
Any other questions on the math graph? Okay. So this next one is writing. Now this is writing for 8th grade. I could only compare it to 5th because they only have it for 2 years, the 5th grade and the 8th grade year. So this is our current 8th graders as 5th graders, and here they are as 8th graders compared to the state.
Well, you know,
I'm just like, wow, that's not good.
No, so.
but we're taking measures, you know, to improve that. You know, as you say, you looked at the weak area being math, so we brought in a new math program, very heavy on high quality professional development this year. Bringing in Math in Focus multiple times, bringing Dr. Mahesh Sharma in to help, you know, again, facilitate that higher end math for our students. With the writing, typically that's not a solid area for anybody in the state. So, you know, we brought in UNH, the Learn to Teach Through Teaching, which is a writing program where they teach a graduate level program here at the school. The teachers participating every other week in a classroom setting, and that off week they're not in the classroom setting, they have their teacher comes in and observes, models, and works with them when they're writing in the classroom. So really trying to address that also. So right now this semester they're working on grammar.
But does this just put like our 8th grade students going to, it just puts them going into high school just a little bit behind? You know, are they going to struggle going forward?
Well, want to go back to the second slide that we have and really look where we are compared to the state. Does it put them behind? I don't think it puts them behind.
Not necessarily compared to the state. I want them.
Oh, yeah.
I want them to be able to know what a complete sentence is, and the punctuation and capitalization, and you know. I just want to make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure they get that.
And we are, but I think to look at them where they are compared to the state, I want our kids performing up here. I want to compare ourselves to anybody else in the state except to ourselves and make progress and leaps and bounds forward. So, but looking at the state, are they going to be behind? I don't think they're behind, but they're not anywhere near where we want them to be when they walk out of here.
One of the things that we're also addressing in our data meetings is for the teachers to bring a writing sample. So that in itself, examining those writing samples to a rubric will really help in that writing.
It's going to depend on which student they choose to bring in too, because they have such a vast spectrum.
It'll be a writing sample for each student.
Each student,
Yeah.
Each
okay.
student.
Isn't this also subjective?
Explain what you mean, Mr. Brown, I'm not sure.
Well, I
What
mean,
you mean as far as-
it's subjective when you have someone writing an essay. It's subjective to who's interpreting.
For the kneecap, Measured Progress does a huge training and does a calibration to make sure that those scores for that kneecap writing piece is consistent. Like all of the scorers, there's more than one scorer that looks at the student work. And then they talk about their differences if they have any, and they come up with the score for the student. So it goes through a rigorous process. If it were scored by one person, I might agree with you, but it's a very rigorous process that they use in order to calibrate those scores.
I also think one of the key pieces that we have to think about too is, and what we are lacking is multiple assessments to determine student growth. And we're looking at kneecap here, and unfortunately that's what we're being held accountable for. However, if we had other assessments in place that we could use to demonstrate student growth, you might see different results. Prime example is if you took out the students that left answers blank or were just filling in the dots on the Scantron along the way and not taking it seriously, and looked at the ones that were, how would that impact these scores? So our intent is to have multiple assessments to compare to make sure that each individual student is showing growth along the way. That's the ultimate goal.
Well,
What's the time spent on testing compared to the time spent on learning? I mean, are we concentrating more on the testing than we are on the time learning and teaching?
that's the problem I'm having also. I think there's far too much assessment. We need to step back from assessments and step back to educating the kids. It's just too much assessment.
The key is using the assessment to drive instruction compared to using assessments to basically come across as punitive in some way. It's not what the scores demonstrate, it's how you use the scores to improve instruction. That's the key component. And I agree, the assessment, particularly for kneecap, what are you running, 4 days, 5 days on a schedule? So 4 or 5 days of testing, and they're not full days of testing out of your total year for kneecap. However, there are assessments that we utilize daily in the classroom that we also have to take into consideration when it comes to determining if our students are achieving or not. So testing happens all throughout the year. For me, the assessments should be authentic to the individual student. So if I'm lacking in reading skills, I should be provided an assessment that is going to allow the teacher to determine, am I making progress throughout the year in my reading skills? So some students might be assessed more than others, and you just have to really drive your assessments based on the individual student needs. But my overall point is the assessments should be used to drive instruction compared to determine a designation for a school, or whether a school isn't showing growth because all the variables that come into play can skew those results.
Bonnie.
Am I wrong in thinking that every child in this building is assessed on a daily basis with the work that they provide, the instruction that they're given, and the outcome of the work at the end of the week or at the end of the say they're learning about Egypt, or they're reading a book, or they're succeeding in this vocabulary, they're succeeding in this spelling, they, they learned their multiplication tables 1 to 4. Is that not an assessment that the teachers use to notify themselves of the students that are on task, behind task, or above task? Is that not the way that it's still done? I mean, because if we're going on this 4-day summary, which is in October, which I think I've always had an issue with, because kids regress throughout the summer with the 6 to 8 weeks off, and in October they don't necessarily have, if they've either remembered it or they haven't, so maybe that is a good idea. But aren't the kids and the teachers and the other people in this building working on assessing without it having to be a formalized, shouldn't it just be like intertwined? And if they don't even realize it's happening, so they don't think it's punitive, they don't think it's negative, it's just, this is what's going on, and this is how everything is, and it's just done. Is that not how it works?
That is how it works, and unfortunately, when this is the picture.
I don't like the picture.
This is the picture that the school is being held accountable for, being designated as a focus school, when we know there are great things going on in the school, and it's the daily observations that are, it makes us very aware of how well students are doing, and that's not something you can show on a graph. It comes to observations, and when I walk through the school and walk through the classrooms, there's excellent instruction going on. Can it improve? We can always improve on anything that we do, and I see the dedication in the staff walking through that are constantly looking at how they can do things better. And when I walk through the building, I'm constantly seeing direct instruction going on as well, which is something I want to see. So the Paul School is moving forward. There's great momentum here. And you get these results in February that sort of puts that kibosh on the overall picture for a period of time. But we have to move past that and continue to focus on the momentum and the positive things that are going on in the school, because there are great things going on in the school.
But we need the public to know that are watching that there are great successes in this building, and that these are just a snapshot of those 4 days. And it doesn't necessarily always constitute exactly what's happening, but it's just a picture of it.
Just a picture.
Did I hear you say, Mr. Tercey, that when a student is found to be deficient, then they are given additional assessments?
No, sir. They would be what's known as progress monitoring, and what we currently do is it's basically a 3-minute snapshot for the reading skills, and you have to do that in order to see if if a student is deficient in their reading, you're providing additional opportunities for them to learn those reading skills. That could be by using specific programs, specific instructional strategies. You have to determine if those programs or instructional strategies are working, and the only way you can do that is to continuously assess as to whether those practices are working, because if they're not, you have to change it to find what will work for each individual student. So yes, they are receiving more assessments, but not to the duration of a 4 or 5 day assessment. It's a quick snapshot, and that's what we use our Ames Web assessments for.
We'll move on to 7?
Yep.
Okay. So here's our picture of the 7th grade for the state from 2006 to 2013-14. And again, a nice picture for reading. And with our 7th grade, our math scores are really close to the state level. So we're a little higher than the state in math. This, I believe, is the only grade that was true with at the Paul School, our current 7th grade.
Job by the 7th grade.
For the 6th
So
grade.
it's actually the 6th
Sixth
grade
grade,
teachers, right? Yeah, our current 7th graders, but it's that. So this is our reading again for 7th grade. Here they are as 3rd graders, and here they are as 7th graders. So in this instance, you can see a nice pop with our percent proficient. You can also see a nice decrease and are substantially below proficient, which is exactly what we want to see. And this is our math for our current seventh grade. Here they are as third graders, and here they are as seventh graders.
I like the fact on that. You talked about the math or the reading right now? You're talking about the math right now? I was looking at the reading and seeing the increase in proficiency with distinction.
Nice, a nice pop, yeah. Questions on the math? Here's our sixth grade, our current sixth grade compared to the state from 2006 to 2013. Again, the reading just really took off in the last 4 years. Wonderful to see. Math went slightly down from last year, so.
And this is the transition from 5th grade to 6th grade. This is going to be the 5th grade, so this is that year when they transition from everyday math to arithmetic, which is confusing when you're doing lattice work and estimating. To go to a traditional arithmetic is difficult for some kids to grasp.
Now, they wouldn't have that under their belt. The 5th grade would still be in, was still in everyday math.
But if they're tested as 6th graders, would they be tested on what they're expected to know for 6th graders, or are they tested on what they learned in 5th grade?
They're tested in their teaching year. It would be tested for their 5th grade year, even though it's 6th grade. So they're tested on the knowledge that they needed to acquire for their 5th grade year. Testing is 6th grade because they're tested in October. Now that's not going to be true as we move down the line, but it is true for these. Okay. This is their reading as 3rd graders in this column here, and then as 6th graders here. Nice pop. Really nice pop for their reading for 6th grade. Oh, yep, and there is their math. And again, you see the same decline from 3rd grade to 6th grade.
They're numbered in a different order. But I'm catching on.
Were the graphs not in the same order?
Oh.
I'm
Yeah, but
sorry.
I figured it out finally.
Oh, I'm
For
so sorry.
myself.
I thought I had arranged them in the right order when I gave them to Kathy to put in your packet. This is our 5th grade, and again, you see that gap in these two lines in writing because nothing was tested in 2009. It was just a weird year for state funding, I think. And again, the reading scores are above the state level, and our writing scores are also above the state level, and our math are a little bit below. And this is our current 5th grade as 3rd graders here in this column, and as 5th graders here in this column for our reading scores. So again, a nice pop for our percent proficient, and a nice pop for our proficient with distinction. And this is our math. From 3rd grade, again, to our 5th grade year here.
That's a bad one. Seems like the below proficient grew and the proficient with distinction shrunk.
So we know we had to do a little bit more PD around math. That's why Jerry brought in those. We had Sharma to help us with that as well. And this is our 5th grade writing. So it's the second year for fifth. It's the first year that they're assessed for writing is in the 5th grade. So here's their 5th grade, and that's just the state. There's no comparison because this is their first year of writing.
And who is that, Jerry?
Who's that now? Sorry.
Mahesh
Mahesh
Sharma?
Sharma. Yeah, he's the Institute of Math in Cambridge, Massachusetts is pretty much, I think, probably one of the top math people we have in the country. Fortunately, he's right down the street from us in Massachusetts, and I've had him. This is our first time I invited him here, but he'd been here a couple of times in the past. But really, probably one of the most sought-after math people in the country.
Do we pay him to?
Yes, sir, we do.
It was through a grant, Mr. Brown, that was given.
Federal grant?
Yes. Okay, and this is our 4th grade throughout the years from 2006 through 2013. This grade we're actually almost right on with the state, except for math. So reading is about the same as the state averages, and math is a little bit below. And here's our reading, 3rd to 4th. So this column is our current 4th graders as 3rd graders, and this is their 4th grade year. So you can see the nice pop here in the proficiency and a decrease in the L1s and L2s as well. And there's our math picture for 4th grade. So again, as 3rd graders, and then as 4th graders.
So at that 4th grade level is the point that we're seeing a decline in their math skills. And it seems like it's all across the board, is that 4th grade level is when they all start having difficulty, whether it becomes more difficult or, you know, maybe there are multiple different forms of instruction that is needed to get to all the children?
It could possibly be all of that. 3rd grade is when it is expected that they have all of their automaticity skills done. So for instance, that they know groups of 10, they know exactly how to add and subtract really easily in their head up through, you know, well, quite high, where they should, at least through 50s, I believe. And then they also need to make sure that they have their multiplication skills at 3rd grade.
3rd grade, they should know
because
1
then
to 12.
The transition to 4th grade is actually applying those mechanics to problems.
I think, you know, one of the things that struck me when we first got this data was looking back historically at the number of changes in grade level teachers who were bouncing from one grade. And like we expect our students to achieve mastery of the math, I think the teacher also has to gain that mastery of teaching, and it's hard to do, I think, when we're moving teachers around. We're moving around teachers, you know, quite frequently. So we're looking really hard at making sure we keep people in their classrooms or in their grade level and developing a mastery of teaching that grade level, as well as having a strong understanding of the grade level above them, so what they're going into.
Here's our 3rd grade picture. So we have a nice jump from last year on reading scores for 3rd grade, which was really nice to see. Because we had a decline before that, so this was really a nice confirmation that the reading scores are pretty solid throughout the building. And there's our reading. Now, of course, this is their first year of testing, so the first column is our Paul School current 3rd grade, And the second column is the state, because this is their first year of testing, so there's no cohort data for me to show. And there's our math scores for third grade. Any other questions?
So how do you utilize this data moving forward? Once you get data like this, how do you utilize it to move forward?
So one of the things that we did before the break, we did show the data to the teachers, and several things happened during that meeting. One was brainstorming what we can do. You know, as far as, here's the data, now what do you think? What do you think, how we can improve these scores? So that was one of the conversations. We have yet to actually meet with 2 individual teams. I believe the 5th and the 2nd are coming up soon, that we will be sitting down with them and meeting with them, but the rest of them, and Jerry did it as a whole staff at a staff meeting as well. So conversations are being had, and then we're also, as Michael said, we're really trying to get more data points, and we're asking teachers to put together some data binders, and in those data binders we're going to be looking at more things that are happening in the classroom, as you suggested. So to really look at each individual child and see where they are currently within the curriculum.
Clearly, we need more work in math. Are we looking at every?
That is, you know, we put an awful lot of effort and time and money into the professional development around math, Steve. You know, and that's really, we've celebrated. You know, asked what are we doing? We celebrated in our staff meeting about the progress we've made in reading. That's an easy one to look at. And we also have to be critical and look at where we are with math, and that is going to be a big push. It clearly is a big push this year, and we'll continue that for next year. We're looking at developing the skills of one of our teachers is a math interventionist, Mr. Roberge, and really we want to create people in the building who can be go-to people, who have a strong understanding of math, you know, especially with math in focus, but then also to bring our students at the higher end, to have established, you know, higher standards for our students when they walk out of here, that they're very ready, much more than ready, but ready to be very successful in algebra, but then as well as geometry. So yeah, our push is to put more professional development on the table for our teachers. Right now, so we've got UNH coming in for the grammar for writing, but having a similar, you know, course being offered for our teachers for math, because we clearly need to do more for our teachers in regard to math, so we can do more for our students, make them more successful. Yes, Bonnie.
So we know that we voted on in early March last year, or
Yep.
even before that, to institute this new math curriculum that would hopefully work on this, and we're going to find that out next year when we see that. How did the new math program, how did the staff adjust to, because I'm sure it's a lot to learn a new
Yeah.
program, and
Yeah.
to not forget, but to displace everything that you were using before to go to a new program, does take a lot of time and effort, and,
Sure.
and almost direction for them, so that it's good for them. Do they take the transition of this
Yeah.
with like a positive grain of salt, just knowing that it's going to better them and it's going to better the kids? And I want the parents to know that the staff is working just as hard to get this down so that the kids get it down.
You know, there are some positive attributes around everyday math, you know, and then what I would hope is that the teachers have put those in their toolbox to draw from while they're teaching these, you know, other styles. Because, you know, we talk about differentiation of instruction. You know, how do we address each individual student's needs? You know, they have different styles of learning, so some of those pieces out of everyday math are going to really be pretty helpful. Yeah, they're working very hard at this. You know, when I talk about bringing in Dr. Sharma, Dr. Sharma's style of teaching is very much in line with Math in Focus. And I had discussion with, you know, Dr. Sharma, you know, a couple of years ago in regard to what's going to be our next best step. And he said, really, you know, Math in Focus, I won't advocate for anyone. He goes, Math in Focus is the style of learning you want your students to use in order to achieve the best results. And so bringing Dr. Sharma in for this stuff, bringing him in for everyday math, probably was not going to be extremely beneficial because you have two conflicting styles of teaching. Bringing him in for Math in Focus, you know, I have more than high hopes, I have high expectations that we're going to see a big jump in growth. Maybe not next year, we may not see it immediately, but I would expect that in a year or two, because our teachers do have to become masters of teaching Math in Focus.
There's two key components that you have to keep in mind when you ask, so what are we doing from this point forward? And I don't know if you recall the presentation I did at the joint board regarding what we're doing in moving forward, specifically around a vision for engaged learning. And two of those components for this year and for years to come were curriculum development and our own local assessments to determine student growth. Major focus this year has been curriculum development. What I want to make sure people realize is that Math in Focus is not a curriculum. Everyday mathematics is not a curriculum. It's a resource that's used to deliver the curriculum. And what we're working on right now is aligning standards from grade level to grade level to make sure that students have the skills and content knowledge necessary to be successful in the next grade. And the other key point that I had made in that presentation is that the focus has to be on K through 3, I'd say pre-K through 3, literacy and numeracy. Students should not be leaving the third grade without those numeracy skills, those mathematics skills, or those reading skills that are necessary for them to apply those skills in fourth grade. So we're really focusing our attention right now on curriculum development, more specifically in K to 3, and what instructional practices are necessary for kids to be successful coming out of third grade. Because if they don't have those skills coming out of third grade, you'll see the chart will just continue to drop from third grade all the way through, because you need the skills in order to succeed after third grade. So we're focusing our attention on the primary and intermediate grades, and the focus has been on curriculum development. So as I said earlier, it's positive momentum with a focus compared to more of a sporadic approach to making adjustments to what we're doing.
Well,
Do we ever incorporate the metric system in any of our learning anymore? Because I remember in fourth grade, that was a long time ago, and I was told.
did they even have the metric system back then?
Yeah. It was the way that, you know, the country was heading, and we were all supposed to understand what the metric system was. And it does seem like the rest of the world is using the metric system, but if we're not even teaching it, how are we preparing our children for that kind of, not that I'm saying globalization is good, I'm saying how are we preparing the children if they don't understand what most of the world is using for a math system, or a measurement system, or a weighing system, and stuff like that. Have we just discarded?
No one ever says it's not a standard we use.
However, I will say though, when you get into, you know, it comes out more often in the sciences, particularly around measurements. So to see it in a you know, a younger grade mathematical problem is very rare. However, when you start to advance through your skills in sciences and the measurement skills become more applicable to the labs, you do start to see the metric system, and you start to actually have to learn the conversions. So it happens more often in science classes than you would see in the math classes, but they go hand in hand as you move up in the grades. So it's not discarded in any way whatsoever.
I hope not.
It's not something that's learned early in your primary and intermediate grades.
If you go north of the border, you know,
Hmm?
you get caught speeding, and it's because you don't understand conversion.
Or your standard wrench doesn't work and you have to go metric.
That's right.
Mhm.
I mean, everybody should know 1/8 equals 0.125. They should.
Mhm.
Sorry about that.
No? Any other questions?
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. Now we can turn off that light that's bugging you.
Yeah, well, when you're not expecting it and you walk by and you look that way, it's kind of
The deer in the
blinding.
headlights look?
He has a lot.
I don't know, you'd have to have someone else look that. Financial reports, even though we're lacking Andrew this evening. Anybody have any?
Can make it to the end of the budget season without being broke?
No.
And, does the assistance that comes from the federal grants and stuff, does it total $2 million in our system, in our school district or the SAU?
1.7, I think, this year, isn't it?
For what our federal entitlements are for Wakefield.
I'm just now looking at all of the different grants that Andrew, there should be a page. Page
All of
26.
them are really,
The grants?
yeah. All of these.
Page 6 of 6 does have a total at the bottom of that page on that grant overview.
Okay.
On the adopted budget. Now, just want to make sure that those are just the title grants, that is not IDEA. Those are just the title grants.
Yep.
IDEA is not part of that.
Is that part of what's considered the adequate education grant revenue?
Where are you looking, Bonnie?
I'm looking at the revenue page, 1 of 2. Might be one totally.
Yes, yeah.
It's page 48, backside of page 48.
47. I got page 47.
Yeah, it's on the back side. That, plus that.
The only reason I'm asking is
Federal grants.
So we have,
you got 80,000 for the child nutrition federal part of it, so that would be. Then the adequate education grant, that's $1,077,000. I guess I'm just curious in
I
case.
can get you the grand total of what we have for grant monies coming into Wakefield, if that's what you'd like.
From the federal government.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
including their DDA.
Mhm.
Just curious, so when we give them the big boot, we know how much we're gonna have to raise and appropriate. Just kidding. Joke around, Steve. Gee whiz. Probably nothing to joke about, is it? Sorry.
Is there any questions on the expense report? One thing that did catch my eye that I just want to point out to the board is on page 3 of 10. I don't know if anyone saw this as well, is how we're over budget in guidance social worker line, 8,000.
Is that because of the change in benefit this year?
Yes. Just wanted to make sure the board was aware of that. Okay. Now move us on to the revenue report. Any questions on that? All right, grant overview. Have the request to have the total monies, the federal grants, the next meeting, or in the next financial statement.
Sure. If I'm not being too pushy.
One of the things I think that we need to clarify is that some of these grants are 2-year grants. So they go beyond one school year. So would you like not to?
I guess if it was what applied to the 1 year of budgeting, I think that'd be more helpful to me, but I don't know what would be more helpful to, I mean, I don't, you folks might not even wanna know the information I'm asking for, so. I mean, 1 year to me is what I'm looking for.
Would the board like that information? Just 1 year?
Sure. All information is good information.
Okay.
Well, actually, both would probably be.
Is it 2 full years? Is it 2 years?
We'll do each grant and the total amount and how many years we have that grant for.
And maybe when the grant runs up, if it's
Mhm.
running up this year.
It's basically a full grant report. Okay. Cash reconciliation. Questions on that? And the treasurer's report.
SAU's,
Sorry.
do you have something? SAU 64.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your packet on page 65, you have the draft calendar for 2014-15 school year. Just want to point out a few things. You can see that teachers would be starting on the 25th of August. And our last day of school would be on June 16th. First day for students is August 27th. A couple changes you might notice between this year and the draft for next year is that we've added some early release days. We do not have early release days except for one this year, where we added some for next year because we're actually losing 2 full teacher workshop days. This year we have 7. Next year we'll only have 5, and that's because we're restricted to the number of days in the calendar, because within the contract we cannot start prior to August 25th. And according to the state, for a calendar that you develop based on days, you have to build in 60 hours of instructional time due to inclement weather emergencies, which equates to 10 school days. So you have to have in your calendar 10 days that you'll see in here that are marked as snow days, and by law they have to be out by June 30th. So we were restricted by time to get the 180 days in for the students, as well as meeting the agreements with the CBA.
I think in past years they had done it.
What's that?
I mean, I remember our kids always having half-day Wednesdays, like once a month. Maybe not in the past few years, but we did. And they still do it in Rochester, don't they?
Mm-hmm. And that's a...
No, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yes, they do.
They do it once a month, I think.
Point I also want to make out is that the regional superintendents got together to basically agree on a similar calendar, because all schools are sending their students to the CTE programs. This calendar is specifically aligned. There are just a couple changes to the Rochester School District as well. So when they're getting an early release, we have one as well. When they have a teacher workshop day, we do as well. So it's not interrupting any of our high school students as well, particularly for families that might have high school students that are looking after their younger siblings or things of that nature. So I tried to make it a point to align with Rochester as much as possible, but that was also aligned with the regional calendars.
What happened to President's Day?
We do not currently have President's Day.
Why?
I'm not sure. Not sure why that was originally removed.
I think that was discussed last year about Civil Rights Day versus President's Day. I think you brought that up, actually.
And I'm asking once again, why no President's Day?
It's really not a day, it's a whole month of sales.
I think a lot of families now, I don't think a lot of families have the majority of the federal holidays and school holidays always off.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a group of particular employers that follow certain, like, I know that our crew gets like a choice. They can take both, or they can take one, or they can take none, and sometimes they'll work one and have the day after Thanksgiving off, or, you know, everybody does it for different reasons. It's just like, I know that I'm going to have so many parents excited when they see this because they have Monday and Tuesday off for Thanksgiving. And I know that if you catch a flight, you can catch it on a Thursday or Friday the week before, and you're going to save on fares. And we had done this one year, and then it went back the other way, and we had families that were disappointed because they couldn't travel again because they didn't want to pull the kids out of school or leaving on a Wednesday before the holiday. And I know you don't do it around flights and affordability and things like that, but to be able to give them more family time as well as educational time is sometimes beneficial, because those are the times that the parents can get off.
Just I want to point out on that, though, on those 2 days, that Monday and Tuesday, those are early release days, and that's when we do our parent conferences.
Well,
it does make a difference.
It does make a difference, and if you're an adult that can call and say, I can't make it these 2 days, but could we reschedule for another time that's convenient for you, that gives you a little flexibility, and the kids are missing some, but there's not going to be a lot of instructional times 2 days before a long weekend. And if you do ask ahead of time, you can get the work ahead of time.
How about fairs for President's Day?
I would not have a problem celebrating President's Day.
I asked, what about President's Day, and you immediately
I
went
know.
to Thanksgiving.
I celebrate President's Day.
I have a problem with that.
Like last year.
Yes. Yeah, but
How do you feel about that?
So we stuck to as many as we have, we can't go over that, I take it, right?
Correct. If you add a holiday, you need to take one away.
Let's take Christmas away.
So what is
Well-
it? Is it February 16th? That is President's Day? No.
yes. No, wait,
No.
No.
second, is it the second Monday? Or the third, no.
Actually, it looks like President's Day is gonna be in the February vacation this time.
Huh. I have nothing to complain about.
It's this, it was the, third
16th.
Monday,
So-
17th,
So it'd be
Well-
16th this year.
17th this year. Poor George and Abe.
February 16th.
Yeah, it's February 16th.
Every day's a
Mm.
holiday.
Yeah,
for
I
me,
don't-
so.
What do you want to
Can I
do?
have, wait. Can I have a motion to approve the 2014-15 calendar?
I'll make the motion to approve the 2014-15 calendar as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right?
Aye. Old business van bids. We were,
See it in your packet on page 66. Last time we brought the bid in, you had requested that we did a little more research, and we've done that. You can see that also, based on the two bids that we received, I should say the high bid and the low bid, we also looked at what it costs for scrap metal, as well as if we looked online to see what that van is worth. So it's up to the
We
board.
originally started out with just scrap metal, right? Is that,
No, they originally came to you with a bid for $811.
or was that, okay?
And I think I'm the one that asked for, like, if it was scrapped out and if they had gone to like NADAD or Kelly Blue Book, and
Right.
they didn't go to either one of those, and I'm not familiar with the two sites that they used, but I'm looking at 1589 compared to 811. That's our scholarship. I don't know why we would just not place an ad in Uncle Henry's or on Craigslist and sell it privately. Is it just, that would be something that Mr. Eldridge would do, or is that just is that just not what they normally do?
Well, I'm not sure if they've ever went for a private sale for a bus or a van, but if that's what the board would like to do, I don't necessarily see a problem with it.
I don't see it hurting any, to at least try it.
Even if you
Right.
just put it out somewhere for a couple weeks and see if you get, I mean, put it out for, I would be interested to find out what Kelly Blue Book and what NADA says, because their prices, I don't know what car.com or Auto Traders, because I wouldn't be looking for a trade-in value, I'd be looking at private sale values. And I don't know what the mileage is, and I don't know the specifics on it to even look it up myself, and I could have contacted Andrew, and I didn't. But, I don't know, I think the difference in price, it's easy enough to put an ad out, they're free to put out, and it just takes, only have interested buyers come and look. You guys have a great spot right on Route 16 to put it. You're right off the highway,
Right.
very convenient.
Not sure if we're going to be allowed to put a for sale sign on a van in the parking lot there as part of the lease.
Cutting in on the neighbor's business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe there's other people around that have
I
property you
think,
could put
so,
it on.
Ronnie, I think the reason it ended up going the way it had, it was the practice has always been putting things out to bid.
I know, but just
think
because it's always been that way,
I agree with
doesn't
you.
mean that that's how we do it now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just try and
As
explain.
things move forward, I mean, some people live and die by Uncle Henry's and Craigslist. I'm not saying it's all positive, but there might be a big family looking for a bus who has $1,750, $1,800 sitting around
Not
waiting
if they got a
to.
big family.
Well, you never know. Maybe they all need a ride.
So would you like to go private sale based on a Kelly Blue Book value?
You can,
I would like to try it.
how much would the ad be? I guess that'd be my first
Ads are gonna
question.
be
You don't
free.
have to. They're free.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I guess I don't.
Now, is this towards a new one too, though?
Shop Kelly Blue Book more.
Well, you don't trade them in, do you?
You can,
Well, you can, but you don't, do you?
Not that I'm
No,
aware
it's
of.
never been practiced before.
but you could, I mean, if the trading value was $1,250,
Yeah.
But if you're gonna buy a $40, $50, $60, $70,000 vehicle, they might give you more than
they
that.
might, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's my point.
Good point.
So the board would have to decide how you want to go on the van.
Why don't we try putting it out for a private sale and see what happens? I'm sure any of these individuals would still like to, there's a certain individual that comes back every year and buys them all.
I would keep it on a couple $100 underneath the private sale price anyways.
Oh,
Crazy. You
No.
put it a couple $100 before and you settle for what it is.
Right,
They're
you
gonna
go
look- they're
up
gonna-
and then
they're gonna
let
look
them
that
talk
up.
you down.
No way.
Firm.
Is it impossible for Tim to ask what it would be worth as a trade-in value also? I mean,
Could you please ask
Says
Tim
that.
to go to Kelly Blue Book and
I
Nat
know,
out
but maybe,
and price these out for us, and then I want to make a motion to go private sale.
I'll second your motion.
discussion, Mr. Jersey?
Yes, sir. Based on a Kelly Blue Book value?
Well,
Because I'd
How
like
about
to
a-
know what you'd like us to put it out at the private sale, because if we do the research, do you want to go with?
well, if Auto Traders is higher, we're gonna go with Auto Traders.
the
If we
highest.
if we can
Highest.
print
That's what
out
I was-
Nat out, we're
Highest.
gonna go with Nat. If
That's
we
what I
can
was-
go
but
Kelly
they're
Blue
all gonna
Book,
be
we're gonna
different.
go with one of those.
But then you also have to go by condition. They,
Well, you put mileage, you put condition, that's all, it's all on the little
Right.
calculator you put in.
I always lie on those.
That's not nice.
That's why you don't sell it.
On a
That's
whole
not
lot of
right.
levels.
Good knowing it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're
all
gonna
right.
call the motion.
I was about to,
Call the motion, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Mr. Foggett. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Is that confusing enough for you, Mr. Tercey?
No, I have it as a private sale based on the highest price.
Thank
And
you.
a sign out in the parking lot.
By which sites, Mr. Jersey?
I
Doesn't
have
matter.
Kelly Blue Book specifically in
NADA.com.
NADA.
National Dealers Association.
Uses a traffic.
Well, no,
Yeah.
because these
No,
are
that's
different-
$1,750
They're gonna
bucks.
buy it, they're just selling it for more.
They're gonna
That's
take
what
it, they're
do.
gonna buy
I don't know
it.
what
And
shape
they're gonna
it's in,
just
that's why I
resell
can't
it.
complain anymore.
None of our buses and none of the vehicles in
I
the
think
district
it's-
are not worth being purchased. None of them.
Right.
I think it's got like 200,000 on it.
Just broken in, ready for someone else to put
Yeah,
another
but-
150, 200,000 on.
But the body looks fine and, you know.
Yeah. It's a good family vehicle. Big family.
All right. Common Core standards. I'm ready to make a motion. I don't know if anybody's got any discussion, but
But you'd have to get a second for your motion to have any discussion.
well, then I will make a motion that we do not, I repeat, do not adopt the Common Core standards. Is there a second?
I will second that motion.
For discussion. part of the discussion should be adoption or endorse, or ask for, is there something you would recommend in place of the Common Core standards? Sometimes it's nice to have, the option laid out on the table, which direction you'd go.
What option do we go?
You come up with local standards that are far superior to the Common Core standards.
How do the three administrators that we have sitting at the table feel about that?
That'd be part of the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we already.
If we want better, can you provide better?
Of course you can.
It might be not basic framework that follows anything from any other town, but can we do it?
I think Mr. Brown was going to say that I've been very clear on my position on this. I do feel that we can have higher expectations if that's a concern for utilizing the standards. We currently utilize Common Core standards for our instruction, so to say that we aren't adopting the Common Core state standards, then we're basically going backwards after a year or plus of utilizing Common Core standards in instruction. We have resources that have been purchased based on those standards, and it is a building block for curriculum development. The Common Core state standards are just one component for the curriculum that we utilize. It's just one component. And when you develop curriculum, you utilize those standards, but it doesn't dictate what you're teaching, how you're teaching. It's just a matter of laying out the skills and content knowledge to be successful from grade to grade. So, again, I find the standards are well written to the point that you can develop curriculum and raise the standards. And that's what we've been doing. So to say that you're not going to adopt them or approve that motion, we're still going to be moving forward, quite honestly, because those are the standards that our students are going to be tested on. And they're also the ones that we have been developing curriculum on, so we're throwing hours of work away, financial resources away, physical resources away. And I guess I'm just not clear on what the issue is. There wasn't, what is the issue? What's the bottom line issue on this piece here? What's driving that motion?
My concern is, does the federal government really care about our children here in Wakefield? Do the children have an opportunity, a consistent opportunity, to learn more than what the standards provide? I would like to believe that the administrators and the teachers and everybody are always giving everything they can that the kids will absorb, and throwing more and more and more challenges at the children, because I believe the children always, maybe not always, but most often rise to the challenge. And so I guess I fear that some of us are limiting our children's abilities by just meeting that standard and being satisfied with that. So I would, if I was in a position of authority, which I don't believe I am, I wouldn't endorse the Common Core standards. I wouldn't say not adopt them. I wouldn't endorse them. I would seek a goal that is higher than the Common Core standards for the children of our district.
And that is our intent, and that's what we're working on, and that's what we're currently doing. And the board adopts a curriculum, and standards are part of that curriculum. So when you see the overall curriculum, you'll see standards within that, but you'll also see a lot more information as to what's being provided to our students and what is being delivered through strong instructional practices. So it's a foundation, and you know, it's that's what we're doing.
Our former superintendent, you know, did a fairly good explanation that the Common Core was, you know, like an apple. You know, you have the core bits, and then the outside of the apple is what the district or the school board or the administrators would add to that core.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that explanation, but I'm just afraid of. You know, again, I guess, and I shouldn't be afraid of anything. I realize that. I'm suspicious that there's an idea in our country that kids don't need to be completely informed or educated because they're easier to manipulate or control. Less education is good for a larger, you know, I guess I have an idea that we need to have sheep in the fold and head in a certain direction, as opposed to individuals who are encouraged and you know, thriving and blossoming. I'd rather see the kids that are reaching for the stars as opposed to reaching for the standards.
And I agree, and you know that I'm a strong advocate for utilizing whatever you possibly can to provide strong instruction for an individual student's needs. A standard is just a minute piece of that, and you as a teacher, as a superintendent, curriculum coordinator, principal, a board to decide what that is. It always has to be based on what's best for that one individual student, and a standard, again, only sets the foundation for everything that you build off of. So it's a minute part, but it plays a foundational part when you talk about standards.
Go ahead, Bob.
Myself, I've been going back and forth on my thoughts on this, and it's very hard for, and I talked to Steve a little bit about this, of just trying to figure out, of 5 people trying to make a decision, is it the right decision? And I don't know. I still don't know if it's the right decision of going with Common Core.
No.
And you know, I'm still on the fence with it. So I know we have time and we have probably a lot of money into it, but that's just beside the point of, is there something better out there for us, you know, for our kids? So that's how I am. I really can't make a decision myself. It's hard.
It'd be easier for me to make a decision if I had a solution.
Well, that would help everybody, I'm sure.
And
Well,
I'm wavering. It's like I'm hearing both sides of the story, and my ears and my eyes are wide open, and I'm trying to absorb everything that I can. I've had 3 children go through Paul School, 2 that have graduated Spalding, 1 that is in their sophomore year. I look at what they're capable of. I look at the kids that my businesses deal with are capable of, and I see things that I still find very important falling through the cracks. And it's how to tell time on a regular clock. And my kids know how to do this, but I see kids that can't tie their shoes because of the invention of Velcro. Velcro was supposed to be a better thing, and it kind of crippled the whole generation of not knowing how to tie their shoes. I look at counting change back. Mm-hmm. Kids can't count change back because it's a facet of math. Currency is a facet of math that has kind of been overlooked a little bit. And when the power goes out, everything stops. You know, there's no spell check, there's no vocabulary check, there's no electronic thesaurus, and I don't want our kids to fall flat. Just because you don't have a computer on, and I see this in writing, if they don't have a computer program on that capitalizes the beginning of the sentence and corrects their punctuation, I want them to be able to do it without even thinking about it. But to like go through and look at a paper of writing and saying, oh my God, when did they learn punctuation and when did they learn capitalization? And with penmanship even being brought out of the picture now, when did they learn to write their letters and numbers correctly for flow? How are they communicating with past generations? I have a unique experience that I have 4 generations in one house, and you've all heard this. My children that are in high school, one that just graduated and one that is in school right now, cannot read written penmanship because they were never taught written penmanship. They would sit at my table and have those little erase boards and try and teach them, but you know, it's Mom, we don't have to do that. Mom, we don't have to do that. Mom, we don't learn that. I don't know what that is. And those are the things that I see are going to be generational gaps. I need to know if I'm voting for something, no one's planning that this is going to be an issue, but it's like the Velcro thing. It's supposed to be better, but it's not necessarily preparing them for what happens when the power goes out. Lots of technology, and I support technology. A little not so good at all of it, but I'm doing the best I can. But writing a formal thank you note is important. And if your grandparents write you a thank you note and you can't read it, that's not good. If you can't sign your name to a mortgage because you've learned how to estimate your mortgage payment in your math program rather than really figure out what it is, you're not going to be really successful. And I look at Common Core and I panic because it's not good enough. It's not good enough for me. I'm home teaching my kids 2 or 3 hours a day, longer than their homework, because they're not getting what I think they need here in the building. And not all families are capable of having a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad or grandparents that live with them that can, get the coin jug and the bills out and say, okay, here's a 5, this is 143, count it back. Or write a page of Z's, or this is how you do it too. And I don't see that all the time anymore. Maybe it's because I'm old-fashioned, but I live in old-fashioned. What are we doing? And Common Core, I saw your presentation. It was wonderful. You've done so much hard work. You all have. But to me, it's just not good enough. Math scores, I want them to be skyrocketing, and if we need more volunteers in here to get it across to these kids and then bring the parents in and have the parents learning too, even if it's side by side, because if you put algebra in front of me, my poor kids are going to suffer horribly. I have to hire a tutor. That's my own fault because I didn't focus on it in school. But anything else I'm capable of, but the parents that aren't, those kids are going to suffer. I just don't think it's good enough. Is where I'm feeling, what I'm feeling.
I think that, if I can talk, I think that that we're all on the fence when you did your presentation.
I don't even think it had ever been brought up to us before.
I didn't present anything on Common Core.
I knew that it was a state issue and it was a federal issue and that it was going around. No one had ever come to us and said, hey, curriculum's going towards Common Core. What do you guys think? Until your presentation.
Mr. Chair, what you're really talking about is instruction. You're talking about good, solid instruction. All of those pieces that you're referring to, the penmanship and being able to count change, all of that is instruction. So it comes down to what I always call the point of delivery, having a very strong point of delivery. That's instruction. It's not what you put in the kid's hand. It's not what you put in the teacher's hand to use. It's how is it being taught. And is it based on student interest, and is it personalized when you're having that approach to instruction? As I said, the standard is a small piece. However, it does give alignment for what should be taught, skills and content knowledge. And if you're concerned about how our current students are doing, that's based on a current standard. And that's changing. And there's always this reluctancy to make that change, particularly without a lot of knowledge behind it.
If it's such a small piece, why can't we make that small piece a local piece? That's better than the small piece of the Common Core standard.
Because when we develop our curriculum, when we bring that curriculum to the board, that is our local piece. That's the big picture of what our students are learning. That's the piece that
So-
you're referring to.
If you bring it to us, and I hate to say it, but the 5 of us feel that there's a piece of that curriculum that's not included that we find important, do we have the right to change the curriculum? Say we poll the parents. Say you poll the and how much parent input do you put on this stuff? Do you ever ask the parents, what do you want your kindergartner to know? What do you want your first grader to know? And then take the information that's Common Core that's coming up and the expectations of the parents and combine the two together. Do you ever do that? I'm asking. I'm not judging. I'm just asking. Because if you go to the parking lot and you ask parents about money and penmanship, like, because the kids come home in 2nd grade and they're not learning penmanship, and cursive's not even taught anymore, is it? You would know that, right? It's not even introduced, and it's hard to have it instruction if it's not part of the curriculum.
So handwriting is, their letter recognition and their number recognition is in the primary grades, specifically in kindergarten and preschool. As far as the handwriting itself piece, you're right, it has gone away. We are trying to look at bringing it back because the cursive piece has been not in this building for a while.
Do you think that might correlate to the poorer writing results that we have? Because they're not physically thinking and physically writing it out. It used to be that you put a first draft in, well, you put your idea, and they learned an outline. Formulate their idea. First draft, second draft, final draft. Nowadays, everything is done electronically, and they don't really have the time. If you have to sit there and write something, you're going to know. And if penmanship counts, you're going to be careful, and you're going to learn your letters and numbers and commas and periods and capitalizations. But if it's done on the computer, it's a quick copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And so is it just one of those things that
in every
slid
grade
away?
level, I actually see children writing. I do. There is physical writing, not necessarily just on the computer. There is actually physical writing.
Cursive as well as printing?
I do see samples of cursive as well as printing.
And what grade is that taught? Or is that taught at home by mom and dad?
The cursive, I believe, are in the older grades that I see. So when I am walking around this school. However, there is an issue with bringing in handwriting again. I do agree with that part. The standards don't cover those detailed specifics that you're talking about. Standards are a broader measure. And that would be true. What you're talking about is a detail underneath a broader standard, a real detailed piece under a broader standard. Standards are really just to get a foundation so that we know, again, like you said, to know where you are as far as being in first grade. What needs to be accomplished in first grade? What needs to be accomplished in second grade? What needs to be accomplished in third grade? It's all the way up through. So that piece, that they are ready for college and career at the end of their 12 years. That's what's really important. We want them to be successful. We want them to be college and career ready after 12 years. What the standards do is help us to make sure that in kindergarten, these are the skills that are accomplished. In first grade, these are the skills that are accomplished and the knowledge that's learned all the way through. So that's why it's really important to have that. My concern with not is really, as Rolf's concern is, what is the alternative? For us to build our own local standards, you're talking years. Not 1 year, but years. It's very hard work. The committees that work at the state convene for years before the standards are
adopted.
But at that point, sometimes, by the time the standards roll around, they're already passé because it took so many years for them to get involved. Like, what is that town? Oh, you guys weren't there that day. I went by myself. Pittsfield? Pittsfield's not following Common Core. What kind? And they brought in.
Alton's not following.
I'm not sure, but Pittsfield pulled their townspeople. They pulled the Common Core. They pulled their families. And they're all deciding together, like, what they want, what the roles of each person they want, what the curriculum they want their kids taught. And I think I have to say, that's the presentation that kind of made me start wavering, because I was like, wow, if they can add all this extra in, why can't we? I know. I know. I know.
I have to agree with Mr. Tracy.
know.
The things that you're really discussing are instructional strategies. They really are.
How
And
do-
it really comes right back down to the teaching and learning that's happening in each and every classroom.
How do we make sure that you understand that we find that vital then? How do we vote so you understand that we're not going to compromise on the education of the kids, and we want all this detail in there and we want to see it? How do we guarantee that? How do we tell the parents that we're going to guarantee that?
That's what we're here for. I mean, we are to provide the best education for the students of Wakefield. And that's what you have to entrust us, you have to entrust the staff, you have to entrust the decisions that the board makes, that it is the best decisions for the students in Wakefield. And I see high expectations for students. Can they be higher? Absolutely. What we need and we don't have is a foundation to build on when it comes to curriculum. That's been lacking for years. Not a resource, but a curriculum that is aligned from grade level to grade level, that I could hand to anyone and say, can you show me the third grade curriculum and how does it relate to the second grade curriculum?
I feel like I've seen that before.
It's not anywhere to be found. You ask teachers, do you have it?
I
Do you ask
think
the
we
SAU
have it.
office?
Like, I'm looking, we've seen all that.
We've seen it, Brian.
Is it focus monitoring that we did it in?
It was strategic planning and focus monitoring. Yeah.
I think
It's not a curriculum.
it's not a curriculum.
That is not a curriculum.
Okay.
Okay? So be very clear. Strategic plans are not a curriculum. Focus monitoring, I've been through the process 3 times. It doesn't provide a curriculum, it provides an action plan. So, trust me when I tell you, we've looked everywhere.
At that SAU.
Jerry, people can't find, you go to teachers who've been here for 20 years, and no one can hand us a curriculum. If they can't give us a curriculum, they don't know a curriculum. They're going based on a program, and they're instructing what's laid out in front of them as a roadmap. But we don't have a curriculum that we can put our hand on. Nobody in the building, they'll tell you they have it, they think they know it, but
And
with
it's not.
what we're handing out is a program, not a curriculum. And we're working hard to develop that curriculum so we can, when people moving on, years down the road, here is the curriculum for the Paul School. A hard and fast document that we can put our fingers on and we can go to, and I can say, where are you teaching this in your classroom? Have we met all the standards? Are we pushing our kids? The standards that we have for Common Core, I see as a skeleton, and it's just the base, and we build from there. It's kind of, and I break it out into 3 tiers. What we need to know, what's nice to know, what's great to know. They need to know the standards, and then we build from there. That's the bare minimum. So we're going to give our kids everything we possibly can, but we have to have a base to start from.
Well,
So I want to know that I understand this clearly. The Common Core is not a curriculum, it's a standards to base your curriculum upon.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
a small, very small piece of it.
Do you believe, seriously believe, that the people that are in Washington, D.C., and the National Education Association, it may not even, is the NEA still even an entity, or is it something
Yep.
completely different now? Do you think they would be comfortable sitting here listening to concerned school board members or parents and even care what we have to say?
No, because there's too much.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking do you, in your heart, do you believe that the people that are really making big money, see, it seems to me that the education, the people at the hierarchy making huge amounts of money in their positions. And it seems to me that some people, and I don't believe this is here in this district or this SAU, but it seems to me that most people who are climbing the ladder really care more about what they're going to make this year, what they're going to make next year, and care much less about what the kids in Little Town Wakefield, New Hampshire, are learning and are going to, I guess what I'm really concerned about is not necessarily my children, but their children. And are my children going to be able to teach their own children everything that really should have been learned 20 and 40 years ago by my generation that was lost somewhere along the line? Respect, history and stuff like that. So.
President's Day?
President's Day. How do you feel?
Yeah, Mr. President.
How do I feel? I feel that you have 3 administrators sitting here, and I guarantee you could fill this room with the staff that are in this building that genuinely care about the well-being and the education of the students of Wakefield. You have to instill your trust in the decisions that we make that are always based on the betterment of the students. So to have this discussion, it's a good discussion. To me, it's sounding like it's more a concern about where this is coming from compared to how it can impact our students. And that's what I'm struggling with, because we're sitting here saying that it is what we have to build off of in order to provide the best education that we possibly can for the students of Wakefield. I'm not concerned about where it's specifically coming from, because I'm talking and looking at and participating in discussions with educators that are genuinely involved in teaching kids. And that's where I form my opinions on. And what I'm hearing from the people that utilize Common Core state standards as an instructional base, they absolutely feel it's the strongest that they've possibly worked with, because they're taking it to a different level, which is what our plan is. So it's a matter of entrusting the decisions that the educators are making for the kids of Wakefield. And I've seen it in the classrooms here. I've walked into a classroom where they say this is based on this Common Core state standard, and it links with several other content areas, and they've done thematic units around this. And it's amazing to see. People don't see that, and they're not going to have an opportunity to see that unless they see it in a classroom. But we know that, and that's what we base our decisions on. So regardless of the federal government, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of an educational standard that we've all been trained to analyze and view and utilize for curriculum. And that's what we're saying is the best that we have right now in order to build curriculum to move forward. It's better than what we currently have.
That's not saying much, because the Common Core standard is horrendous. I mean, you have why would a private company copyright these national standards? These are national standards. And this is another thing of teaching to the test, because what this is doing is putting kids in queue. And they sit there and they answer questions. And if they miss, 3 in a row, it dumbs them down until they answer however many there. Then it bumps them back up. Then it dumbs them down. The Common Core standards are pathetic. And I don't agree with anything, especially where it's such a minute part, why anybody would want to build anything off the Common Core standards. We can do a lot better. I just can't believe that this is what they're sending down. These are national standards. They're not state standards, they're national standards. And what works well in California probably certainly isn't going to work well in New Hampshire.
Why not?
You ever been to California?
No, but kids are kids.
Have you
Kids
ever been-
all need multiplication tables. They all need to know how to add. They need how to, just because they might do something and they're, maybe it's warmer and doesn't rain as much, doesn't mean that they're not kids and they have to learn the same thing at the same time.
There are regions, there's areas,
Honey, there's regions and areas here
That's
that
right.
are not going to be as successful as maybe more prominent areas. But we've got devoted families, devoted teachers, devoted administration.
That's right.
But
And we can do better.
everybody can do better.
That's
Every
right.
adult can do better. Every
And it's
person
such
in
a
the world
minute
can
part.
do a little better.
And if it's such a minute part, why would it take years to develop such a minute part? We can make our own local minute part to build the curriculum off that is far superior than the Common Core standards.
Okay. Can I just play devil's advocate for a second?
Go ahead.
Michael, we're going to tell you tonight that we're not going to support Common Core. Maybe. Just devil's advocate here. What would you then, as an administrative team, then use as your core to start making your curriculum based for us? Common Core. Because am I right?
Correct. Right.
If we said that, Am I wrong in thinking that? You'd go right to that base guideline and said, this is the basis, we hear what you're saying about what you wanted added in,
And it's right there.
and we
It's
can
right
expand it. You can expand the Common Core, you're not trapped, and I don't want anyone to think that we're trapped in that, but if we said, this is what we're going to ask you to do, if minute or not minute, education is super important. What's the ground basis? Is that the model you would go to do a curriculum for us?
There's all kinds of models out there.
I know that other districts are looking at developing their own standards, and the very first document they use is the Common Core State Standards in order to draft their own. So they are still incorporating the Common Core State Standards as well as possibly polling their public. But that is the go-to document.
And I guess my concern with the Common Core is the standards are going this far. What guarantee do we have as parents and citizens that we're going to push them further? Or I don't want these children dumbed down. I want them to be able to go further. I want them to be able to grow. And Common Core, if you look at it, Steve's, that's a pretty good example. We need to be assured that these kids are going to be pushed as far as they can possibly go and go higher than the standards that Common Core is expecting out of them. That's my biggest concern. It's the kids. I don't care where it comes from. It's the kids.
And
So we all agree on that.
It's all about
I
the
hope
kids.
so. Should be about the kids.
Well, but
I'm still fearful of where it's coming
Oh,
from.
Trust me.
well, no, but when you have a private company that's copyrighted the national standards, well, I mean, yeah, this is all about money. It's not about what's in the best interest of the children. What it comes down to, once again, is the almighty dollar, because there's a lot of money in public education, and there's a lot of people who are becoming rich off of Common Core standards. And they don't care about educating our children. It's clear they don't care about educating our children, because Common Core standards is nothing less than the dumbing down of public education. That's Common Core in a nutshell. The dumbing down of public education, and it's all because there are a lot of people behind this who are making a lot of money, and that's why you have a private company copywriting the national standards. That's a problem. Common Core is a problem. It is the dumbing down of public education. There is no, there's no doubt about that it's the dumbing down of public education. Mary?
The curriculum work that we're doing, the very first thing that we discussed with teachers is a guaranteed and viable curriculum. And what that means, that guaranteed and viable curriculum, is to make sure that we have curriculum that is guaranteed so that every third grader, no matter what class they're in, has the same curriculum. The other part of that being viable is that it has to fit into that school schedule. We have to do it within that 180 days. We don't have the luxury of adding more or taking, so it has to be accomplished. So that guaranteed and viable curriculum is very important. The standard is that just the skeleton of the start of the conversation. I have teachers coming together and we look at standards, we cluster the standards together, and then they have the discussion of what does that look like in the classroom. And the rich discussion and the fact that these teachers are using their, the performance assessments that they're coming up with in just talking this through is amazing. So the guaranteed and viable curriculum is really where our heart and soul is. Okay? The standards are a way to start discussing about the guaranteed and viable curriculum. The standards are just the start of doing all of that. All of that richness and everything else is happening with our teachers. Jerry was part of that first part of the process and saw how excited the teachers were about having that time together to discuss it and to really flesh out a really good guaranteed and viable curriculum. And it'll be accessible because we're putting it on Google Docs. So there won't be any issue with where's the curriculum. We'll know where the curriculum is.
Well,
I think one of the things that opened my eyes was when the grading went from the letter grade to the proficient and, proficient with distinction and stuff like that. It was new, so I looked at it from a suspicious point of view, and I guess that was the reason why I started looking into the Common Core standards, and I would like to believe, and I do believe that you folks right here at this table have all good intentions at heart. I truly believe that. I just want to know that the standards we base our curriculum on are sound, and that we can go above and beyond that to provide a better education than the normal statewide, regional-wide, countrywide. I believe the kids in Wakefield have some great potential, and I just, I sometimes hear my own child say, I need a little more challenge, a little more.
and Common Core is not doing it.
But I do hear the idea that this is the skeleton, this is the core of the apple, this is what you start at. I hear that. I understand that. And if we can build a better curriculum, with the help of the administrators, with the help of the town or whatever, we need to have that goal in mind before. I guess we need to have a solution as opposed to just, thinking that a potential solution needs to be discarded. If I'm talking about if there's a core, if there's a standard that can be built upon, I'm not saying that we need to adopt it or not. I think that if it was being utilized without an endorsement, Still torn,
It is-
still on the
it is
fence.
now, though, isn't it?
Well,
Are there examples that you can give us that you've already worked on in the curriculum that are already in place now? Has any of the curriculum been based on the Common Core? Are any of the curriculums developed enough so that we can see what they are? And it's like, in your presentation, you talked about the availability. Say you have a third grader that's reading at a sixth grade level or has a sixth grade math level because they're just absolutely amazing. Or even if it's a kindergartner that has a first grade reading level, or maybe vice versa. Maybe we have a first grader that maybe needs a little extra help or some going over it again. Has any of that already been implemented into this year's program? Do we already have kids stepping up or maybe leaving class to go to a higher class? Do we have that within the building already?
One of the things
Jerry
that,
address that one.
yeah, one of the things we're trying to do is develop our schedule so that when we have common teaching times in lower grades, again, a goal as we talked about the staff meeting today is planning our scheduling for next year. So we have a scheduling committee that starts next week to do the schedules. The goal of having common teaching times, like you were looking at reading, and if reading is all taught at the same time, K through 3, and I have a student who's in first grade who is doing an outstanding job. I mean, really differentiating instruction is just not going to work because we can't differentiate to that level with what we're teaching in first grade. We'll try them in second grade, and we did that this year. A child who's in first grade, move her up into second grade. She just knocking it out of the park, and she's really at the top end of her second grade reading class. We probably could possibly move her up into third grade, but you have to question whether that be socially appropriate for her. So yeah, and we always looking to not only meet the expectations of the standards, but to go far beyond that. Again, we're not going to compare ourselves to what other, the rest of the state is doing, like we do in the kneecap. Not comparing ourselves to that. Comparing us to ourselves. How can we get better and stronger? And better at the math, or reading, or whatever the curriculum is. That's our goal. And so if we looked at the standards and we said, you know what, we met the standard, we're good, then shame on us. Shame on us educators, because we're going to set the bar here. And we've been saying since we came in the building, our bar's up here, and if we set that expectation here, our kids can meet it. And that's what we're doing.
Bravo, that's what I wanted to hear.
right, but
I wanted to see that it's already being implemented and that we're already utilizing it within the building, and that you said it when you said you're not going to set your bar too low. And you've said that, and you've said that, but the building principal just said that, and you're the one doing you're the one touring the building every day, and you're the one seeing the teachers every day, and you're the one doing, what are they called? What are those papers, like you go in and you view the teachers and
Evaluations.
you're doing the
observations.
evaluations, and you're hearing, but you're also the ones that place the teachers in the grades that they're in, is that right? You work together as a collaborative group, or do you make that decision?
Well, I make that decision, but we
So for
talk about it,
consistency,
certainly.
you know that that's going to be a key issue because you already stated it earlier.
We want to keep them consistent so they become masters at teaching that grade level. We're not bouncing them around based on our whims or theirs, becoming masters at that grade level so our kids can get as much out of them as possible. And really looking at ways that we're tweaking that schedule, whether we work with math and we do things differently up in the upper grades of math to make sure that those teachers know those kids well, know where they're at, and can bring them forward in that continuum math. So, a real, I think a strong area to do that in, because it is such a continuum-based education. But trying to get as much out of them every day as possible. And our teachers would trying to set the bar here long before I got here. We gave the teachers carte blanche. Said, look, whatever works, do it different. Okay, well, whatever's going to work for those teachers and for those kids, and make sure that we can bring them as far along as we possibly can in 1 year's time.
But we repeatedly keep hearing that we're constantly raising the bar. So, and we've also heard that the standards are just a minute part. So, why is the administration so adamant about a minute part that they have to, from day one, raise the bar on? Why don't we create our own local standards that raises the bar from day one, further than where administration is raising the bar from Common Core? Why don't we have our own local standards that sets that bar higher than it's ever been, and then allow the administration to raise it from there? We have the dumbing down of public education that administrators have to raise that bar from day one. What? Why? But yet, and they're so adamant that we need such low standards that are such a minute part of it. I'd like to know what's driving that.
Are the standards that low?
No,
No.
Yes, they are.
No.
in comparison to what? If you don't mind me asking, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair.
No Child Left Behind. I mean, we're going from No Child Left Behind to Common Core?
But isn't No Child Left Behind a totally different issue? Isn't that
Yeah.
about special needs?
No,
No.
no.
And individual
Behind is a
education plans and
no,
things like that?
Federal Act for Education.
Yeah.
It's teaching to the test. What this is doing is teaching to the test. And like I said before, they sit the kids in front of a computer and they sit in queue until that more children will meet the standards. And you just keep assessing them and assessing them and assessing them so that you get more children who meet the standards. Who does that help? It doesn't help the children's education to repeatedly assessment after assessment after assessment. Can I finish, please? Thank you. There's far too much assessment and not enough educating, and these standards are horrendous. Who was first? You?
Bonnie.
Bonnie?
No, Ralph's hand was up, actually.
I just need to say that, you know, my personal experience, I've witnessed the administration extend, you know, higher education to a certain level. You know, it's not been my experience that the child's been encouraged to just stop at that level. I can say that.
I'm not saying that.
All right. And I want to make sure that
It's not clearly what I'm not blaming any of the three or any here in, you know.
so
VSAU
with my
64.
example, I'm saying that as long as these opportunities are extended to every child in our district, and I believe they could be or would be, I'm happy. I've been impressed with the enabling, I guess, of the administration for certain students to go above and beyond what's at their grade level. So I haven't witnessed people being satisfied with status quo.
No, but it's teaching to the test so that they can get more children who meet the standards, and therefore the educrats look like they can sit back and say, see, we're doing our job because far more children are meeting the standards.
My point is that what Mr. Tercey, everybody's saying here is they're willing to go above and beyond those standards, and
Right.
I've witnessed that. So that's all I'm trying to say.
Oh,
To
well,
make that
no,
clear.
that's a good thing, but you should have standards that are far superior than Common Core to begin with.
I agree with that.
Huh?
I'm
I
hearing
agree
your
with that.
analogy of assessment, and I'm thinking as a business owner that if I don't assess my work, I'm not gonna know how to better it. I'm not gonna know that what I'm doing is I'm doing right. And if I need to learn something more or reaffirm something, I'm not gonna know that one of my employees needs something without assessment. So I think in education, some form of assessment, whether it's a weekly spelling test or reading a book and doing a paragraph on it, so that they know that you know who the main characters are, what the plot, that the, assessment is important. And I'm hearing that you're thinking,
To a point.
I think it's vital. How do
To
you
a
know
point.
how to teach without an assessment? How do you know what children have mastered certain things without some form of assessment? And the one test that you're talking about is the NEWA. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So the NEWA is that one test that's what, twice a year or once a year?
It's twice a year. You can go 3 if you need.
So
to.
it's twice a year, so it's a baseline assessment. Our teachers are going to be assessing these children, every child in their classroom, on an extremely much more regular basis because they're going to be in touch with them every day. The NEWA test is basically if the child hasn't mastered, because I'm thinking that mastery or proficient with distinction is what they considered mastered. But in an assessment, if the child hasn't mastered it, you don't want them to like automatically fail. You want to see what level they are at so you know what to instruct from there on out.
Correct.
And that's what the NEWA test in the system is for. But if you're complaining about assessment, then the
No, wait a
whole,
minute.
everybody is assessed. And you might disagree with that one testing piece.
NEWA's not part of, we don't even have the NEWA program yet. So what,
Haven't we already approved it? Isn't that part of the plan?
Part of the budget.
but
Part of the
we don't have that.
But we
so
did
what-
have it 2 years ago when they took it away.
Right, but there's also other, the tests within Common Core.
Which is the next agenda item.
How many times is the Smarter Balance assessment done?
Once a year.
Once a year. in
So
school.
NEWA's a twice, Smarter Assessment is once. So that's 3 times a year. And are they week long? Are they quarterly? Are they? How long do they take? Like, is it? Because it's like you make sure your child gets a healthy dinner, puts to bed.
I think Smarter Balance will probably be similar to what we do with kneecap. The amount of testing that needs to happen will take over the course of time for us to schedule it in and proctor those.
So
So in other words-
if you weren't doing Smarter Balance, you'd be doing kneecap.
We'd be doing kneecap. But let me also point out, that if you think we're only doing assessment for the NEWA and the kneecap currently, our teachers are doing formative assessment every single day.
Yep.
To drive that
Every day.
instruction.
Probably 5 times a day.
5 times.
Every time you
Yeah.
teach something different in a
If-
classroom,
if
you're
our
figuring
teachers-
out who knows it,
If
who
our
doesn't,
teachers are
aren't you?
doing an assessment at the end of a unit to decide how that child learned, and they didn't learn well, and they're gonna base it on that one final evaluation, we're gonna have problems. That's gonna be a problem, Steve.
That's
the
problem.
real problem.
Right.
Assessments aren't the problem. Assessments are the answer, because that's how we drive our instruction. We determine where they are. It makes no sense to teach a child algebra if they haven't mastered multiplication, just because they're in 8th grade. We're not going to make chronological, age-based decisions on education. We're going to meet them where they're at and make progress from there.
Okay, and I'd like to, it's another piece of the whole thing. I spent an hour, well, we spent an hour and a half at the last professional development meeting discussing the verbiage of data mining. Part of Common Core, they are going to data mine every child's public education record. They're going to tell you they're not. And they're going to tell you, we can't figure out what which kid it is. Data mining? They're already data mining all of us. We're the last course to protect the children in this town from being data mined. No child should be data mined. Seriously? Data mining the children? That's a good standard? No. Data mining children is not a good standard. And I have a definite problem with data mining children's public education records.
Can you explain to me what that is?
And me.
Data mine?
Mm-hmm. Because I don't know.
Data mine. They want to know everything about every single child.
What do you mean by do they want where they live and all? I mean, I don't understand what information they're gonna ask for. So I need you, I'm wholeheartedly, I do not understand what it is, so I need you to tell me.
It's data, every single aspect of every child's public education.
So is it all their test scores?
It's everything.
Grades.
What do you mean by everything?
Everything. Gender, sex. I mean, they want every single piece of information
Birth
about
certificates already show that. Sex, birthday, they already show that. So that's already part of that. So what else other than that are they taking?
everything they can get their hands on.
Does that mean that discipline?
Yes. Yes.
Academics,
Yep, everything.
personality,
Everything.
interactions with
Everything.
any positive, whether they win 5 awards or get punished and expelled
Everything.
from the bus for putting their feet on the seat. Everything's going to be on there.
Data mining. They're data mining.
So
everything.
you're telling me that if we say that we're going to use Common Core as a basis,
Your child's education record will be data mined.
more so than it already is with their
Absolutely.
electronic file that they have to graduate from high school with?
Mm-hmm.
Can you
Yeah,
help
can you
me with
answer
that?
that?
Yeah, because that's boom. That's what
The
I'm
data mining piece is separate than the Common Core standards. The data mining
Okay.
concern that's coming about is around the Smarter Balanced assessment, not
Which
the
is
Common Core
Which
standards.
is Common Core. It's all one and the same. The smarter balance is based off of Common Core. It's one and the same.
It's my understanding that as they're going through the Smarter Balance testing on the computers or whatnot, as they're going through the testing, from what I was reading and from what I hear, and you know, there's a whole bunch of hype surrounding all of this whenever anything comes through that's new. But my understanding from one of the presentations that I went to and what I was reading online is as they're going through the Smarter Balance assessments, they're asking questions like, the specifics of the children's households. Do you live in a household with mommy and daddy, or do you live in a household, you know, that's the type, I think that's what he's trying to drive at. That's
you
what I'm
seen
hearing.
a copy of the test? Do you know if those questions are asked?
And
I did go through a pilot test, and none of those questions are on
Okay.
the pilot test.
None of
Not
them
the one
are?
that I took, but
well, this is what one of the big concerns is with this, is that they're saying they're built into the tests, and you're going to answer these kids are going to answer these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't answer the questions, you're not going, and from what I'm understanding, you're not going forward. So that's like a huge issue, because now if they can't have access one way, we're going to access it the other way we're going to ask the child, you know, and you know, do you have a single mommy, or do you have 2 mommies, do you have 2 dads, you know, that type of stuff. And that is a huge concern, and I know that was one of the big concerns that was brought up. So, you know, I don't know how that correlates with Common Core, but the Smarter Balance, I know that's what we were told. You know, that's what I was reading about. So that is a huge concern.
But it could be like one of those things that someone is saying it because they're off on a tangent
that's
about
what I'm
something,
saying.
and
Is
so
it-
we have to ask them,
is
is
it
that
hype?
something you've found?
You know, is that hype?
You've
Not-
in all
you know, I think all of us have been exposed to the boogeyman of the Common Core ate my baby, or whatever it might be. You know, I've not seen it in when I've taken the pilot. Certainly, I've read plenty of articles, and you know, that indicate the same thing. You know, that there's something evil about it, and they're going to go after everything. And they want to know everything about you. But I haven't seen anything to evidence that in the assessment that I took. You know, and I can
and
only
you
base
didn't either.
No.
And I am sure that someone on our administrative staff would go through this test before they gave it to any child, and if there were any questions in there like that, that would raise a huge red flag to the administration saying, maybe we're not going to allow this to happen. Is that true?
They have to follow the standards.
Well,
No,
so if you accept Common Core, you have to take Smarter Balance?
You currently, the discussion at the state is that the Smarter Balance is a pilot for the spring of 15. There's also conversations around being able to utilize your own local assessment to determine student growth in each district. There's also conversations around utilizing quality performance assessments, authentic assessments. It's right now the state's in this flux of what they're actually going. They're actually leaning more towards local control of, and agree with me or not on this, more about local control on what assessments you utilize for your students to demonstrate student growth. So it's not even a given right now that it's determined that all students in the state of New Hampshire will be taking Smarter Balanced Assessment in the spring of 15. However, what happens after that is still in the air. It's somewhat of a pilot. And Mary sits on a committee that has this discussion at the state level. You want to chime in on that?
Yeah. The Accountability Task Force is looking at all sorts of different alternatives for districts. However, that being said, Smarter Balanced is still going to play a part in each of those alternatives. It may only be for 4th grade, 8th grade, and 12th grade, or 4th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade, but it will still be a normed test. And the reason why normed tests are important is so that you have an idea that you're on track. And that's important as far as educational research goes. It's really important because that's how we determine when programs are working and if the standards are working, those kinds of things. There's several different ways of going about looking at how our students are measuring up to make sure that they are getting the curriculum that they need to be college and career ready. And that's really the emphasis on the state, is making sure each one of the students are being taught so that they're college and career ready. So they are looking at performance assessment as being a part of that system. They are looking to see if districts want to create their own local assessments. There will be some guidelines and some criteria that have to be met to do that. Those options rather than the Smarter Balanced.
Who's first?
Go ahead, Bill.
I wanted to offer an amendment to your motion, Mr. Chairman. I know you'd have to withdraw the second in the motion to make the amendment, but I would like to amend your motion to have the Wakefield School Board not endorse the Common Core standards as opposed to not adopt the Common Core standards.
Can we do that?
Well,
I have one more question.
I have another question. too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Tercey, if we say Wakefield's not Common Core, we're not adopting Common Core, what does that mean for you? Like, it's my understanding we're getting money for doing the Common Core. I mean, how does that work? If you say we're not going with Common Core, we're going with this curriculum, does it impact the Wakefield students? Does it impact the teachers? That's, I want to know. That's what I want to know.
If this motion passes, it will hinder our progress and it will crush our momentum, quite honestly, which will have an impact on the student because teachers are now going to have to start over and we have to develop a full set of new professional development around curriculum development as well as professional development around instruction based on standards that now we have to figure out what are we going to use.
But are we losing money from the state or federal levels?
No.
Is that okay?
No.
Okay.
But Mr. Tercey, how is that from such a minute part?
Because the standard is used to develop curriculum, and that takes a lot of work. A lot of work.
But the standard is such a minute part that you repeatedly stated.
Stuck on the words.
To build off of. It's the building that is a lot of work. And that standard, in order to develop that standard, takes years to develop. So when people say they're developing their own local standards, they're still using a baseline standard, which at this point is the Common Core standard.
Have we-
This is totally,
Have we not, can I go ahead?
let's go.
Have we not always, for years, I remember even as a child, taking standardized tests. It was just a way to develop curriculum and to move forward.
Correct.
Talk
And
about
I mean-
SATs.
Well, no,
No,
I
the
remember
little-
being
I
in like
remember
first,
taking 'em.
second, third grade, and
Iowa's
you
California Achievement Test.
California
all of
Achievement
those
tests,
are
or
schools
even,
and
I remember having to take, they gave you like an IQ test. I remember being in 6th grade taking an IQ
Did you
test.
pass?
Most likely, yes. But I'm thinking that I was fine, and those standards,
fine.
I was fine. Yeah,
We're gonna base our standards off Bonnie. I was
that's fine. Well, I'm thinking that I was taught on a standard. I took California Achievement tests. I took IQ tests.
Right.
I don't know what their baseline was, but I'm sure the development of their curriculum has far exceeded what I was taught. And I think that the way that I was taught was sit still, read, write, and remember. I love that there are other ways for kids to learn now easier than having my mother sit there and drill me, which she did quite often when it came to vocabulary and spelling. But did I get creative? I did, and my kids learned a different way, and that's totally fine. But the new curriculum incorporates that and shows them to be successfully learning the same information without having to run around the building. Mr. Fogg. So I think that everyone's like, the test, the test, the test. We've always taken tests. We have tests every day in life. We have tests as kids. You can't tell me you don't remember taking tests.
But we're doing so many, and just like Jerry said,
We're doing the same amount.
No. There's far more assessment. But just like Jerry said, they're constantly assessing.
Every day. You have to.
That's
How
right.
do you,
That's right. But there's too much. There's too much teaching to the test.
how do you
That's what they.
You say that, but how do you back that? Like, because if you're a kindergarten teacher and you're trying to teach how to write a number 2, and you've got whipped cream spread out all over the table, and kids are writing 2s, messing it up and writing a number 2. Thank you very much, or number 3 in whipped cream, or they're spelling at or can or their name appropriately. How is that teaching to the test? I find that to be instructionally successful, and it's meeting a common core. It's a little different, but that's how some kids learn. I don't think that assessing the kid to know if they know how to spell their name appropriately is asking too much.
If you don't educate the kids, you can assess them all you want. But we got to get back to educating the kids and stop data mining them. There's too much government interference in public education.
Okay, so your problem with Common Core is the government interference. Is that right?
No, it's the dumbing down of public education.
Okay.
That's the problem I have with Common Core. It's because it's the dumbing down of public education in this country.
The scary thought is with Common Core, the standards are, as you guys said, this low. And there are towns, and there's...
No, they're not.
Well, somebody said it.
What I said is
Your
we
bar,
we
okay.
have a bar here. The kids are going to meet it. We set our bar here.
All right, my concern, and you guys do a phenomenal job.
Right.
We have a phenomenal school here, but there's other schools out there that are just going to fall to the Common Core standards. That's where they're going to go. That's all they're going to teach, and we're going to call it good and walk away. And I guess that that's a big concern for me. Is I just need to know that we're going to go further. We're not going to just stop, and that's it.
So they're saying that, though.
Right.
They're
That's
telling
I know,
us.
and that's why we're having this discussion. So that is my huge concern. That, and are they going to pull money from us because we're saying, hey, we don't want this? And that was another big thing. There was a lot of funding, I guess, involved in it, from my understanding, which is why I'm asking you guys the questions.
It's not the Common Core where the funding is hinged. It's actually on the Smarter Balance test. We all have to take the Smarter Balance test. There is no waiver for not taking the Smarter Balance test.
Right.
There are options being looked at, but that's beyond this first waiver. So we have to take the Smarter Balance test. That's a given. And there is.
Londonderry just put in for a waiver for Smarter Balance. So you can put in for a waiver. And the projected cost of Smarter Balance is $22.50 per student.
What's the cost in ECAP per student?
The Smarter Balance assessment isn't going to cost the district. We don't have to budget for taking Smarter Balance. Where that dollar figure is coming in is if you have to increase your technology capacity in your district, which we do not. We're prepared to take a computerized adaptive test. That's where that cost comes from. Londonderry is looking at piloting, instead of Smarter Balance, specifically utilizing the PSATs and the SATs at their high school level for their standardized tests. So there's confusion in what
And Ready Start for 8th grade.
yeah, what
But that's
that
only,
article
that's
is
only,
referring to.
yeah,
Those three.
that's only 3 grades, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, what does it cost for New Hampshire to participate in the Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium? Projected per pupil cost for the summative assessment is $22.50.
At the state level. It's not something that a district has to budget for.
The state's gonna pick that up.
Correct. Which they currently do for ECAP.
Okay.
I just hate to see the kids being dumbed down so that more children meet the standards. I mean, how is that supposed to educate the children? Seriously? You want to just have a standard that's so low so that more of the kids meet the standard? I have a problem with that.
And I guess I look at it differently than you, that I see what they're saying as their standard is going to make sure that we all graduate knowing everything that we're going to need to get into a successful tech school, a state university, and that's going to be the common, that's going to be the standard, is like everybody's going to know this, everybody's going to know that, and you're going to get in. But if you've reached that bar to be that successful adult, whether you're running your own business, you're working, you're going to be able to be a successful participant in society, is what I see the level. And then the kids that are going up and beyond, and the kids from Wakefield are going to be heading to Harvard and Tufts and Brown and Yale, because we're going to be pushing it out of the park and getting a little more out of them, is how I see it. I see that Common Core is going to be like, you can successfully leave knowing that your education has gotten you to a point that you're going to be able to compete with every other person to get into UNH, to get into Plymouth, to get into UMass Lowell, to get into all of these.
That's these people. Common Core is doing nothing to what you just said. It's these people who will accomplish that. Common Core isn't doing anything. The standards are so low that our administration needs to raise the bar from day one.
And they're saying they can't do that right now, though.
No, they're saying they can. They have to, because
That's not what I'm hearing. That's not what I'm hearing you say.
No.
I'm hearing you say
Yeah.
that the standard is already high, but you want to be able to offer more. Is what I'm hearing the three of you say.
Correct.
Bonnie, no matter how high the standard is, we're going to want to go beyond.
Right.
You don't care where you set that standard. We're going to be looking. We're going beyond.
That's what I'm saying. Why? I understand, and it's nothing personal, but between these three guys. But that's what I'm saying. The standards are too low. The Common Core standards are too low. Why do you want so low? Why not set the bar on the standard up here and then allow the administration to move that? But start at something, not at sitting kids in front of computers until they finally pass the test, so that a greater number of kids make the standards. How does that help a child's education? It doesn't.
That's just a small part of it.
I was going to say, that's just, I don't hear that. I don't hear what you're hearing and what you have for issues. I guess I have to disagree. I don't have those for issues. I have to trust that they know what our kids need. And you're saying that the standard is so low.
Yes.
I've looked at a set of standards, and other than penmanship and currency and telling time, And that's the three.
And metric.
Metric.
Well, metric too for you, but I have to tell you, well, yeah. But it's like, I was looking at those three things and I didn't see them in the standard. I didn't see them in the, but yet the kids would have to, at some point, learn them to be able to exceed the goal. And it's, so I see all of it as being so right there. We're just arguing about, we're not even arguing, we're just discussing.
It's the dumbing down of public education.
I don't feel that way, because
I
don't.
do.
And I'm just saying.
I do.
Can you give us an example of, like, what are the standards for a kindergartner?
Oh, sure. Let me just pull it right up for you.
Well,
Go ahead.
while she's pulling that up, I just want to say that, you know, one of the best things about this discussion is that we're talking about education and children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's a highlight for me at a board meeting, quite honestly, so I appreciate the conversation. I just wanted you to know that. I know there's a motion on the table, and, you know, it's been a lengthy discussion around that. I've expressed my opinion as your superintendent, and I think that we, as administrators, need to know, walking out of this room this evening, what's the stance of the board, because if, as I said earlier, if this motion passes, then we're back to square one, and we have a lot more work to do than what we've already been doing.
Have we all
Yes, we are.
have we all had a kindergartner? So we all, like, know what we would expect from a kindergartner?
My kindergartner was homeschooled.
One of mine was too. But so we all know.
So
Am I right? Yeah.
one of the reading literature standards is reading literature K-3. The reason why I didn't do 1 is because it's an anchor standard. It goes all the way through 12, so that didn't give you a really good picture of what's expected in kindergarten. With prompting and support, identify character, settings, and major events in a story. Analyze how and why individuals, events, and ideas develop and interact over a course of a text. That's a kindergarten standard.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's not
low.
low.
Here's a math standard. Count to 100 by ones and by tens. Count forward beginning from a given number with a known sequence instead of having to begin at 1. Write numbers from 0 to 20. Represent a number of objects with written numeral 0 to 20, with 0 representing a count of no objects.
That's kindergarten.
Those are
That's
4
kindergarten.
standards.
I don't consider that low for kindergarten kids. I consider that, with the character and plot, that might be a little difficult for an August-born child coming in, especially if they haven't been read to a lot at home. It depends on their primary base, but that could be an exceeding mark when just being able to sit through a story could be the baseline for some of the kids. And that's not the standard that we're looking at. Some kids come into kindergarten regretfully because preschool is not mandatory. They don't know the difference between a letter or a number. They don't know their colors. They don't know their alphabet. They don't know their name.
Address.
They don't know their address, their phone number. So you have to look at that as a kindergarten baseline. Those are what some of the kindergartners are coming in at, and then you're going to have other kindergartners that are reading a 3rd grade level. So I would figure that in as a very middle of the road, very acceptable, maybe even a little high for some of the kids.
Common Core doesn't teach. They were going to teach the.
Isn't that Common Core
That
basis?
is Common Core.
No. As far as you're saying, didn't know their address. Common Core standards. They're not going to teach all the little things that you have been stating.
Honey, then you're talking about the teachers not teaching in this building, and they are.
No, I'm not saying that. You're the one who said, well, that they need to be their address.
Well, they're saying they're going to go beyond.
They're going to go
They're
beyond
going
that.
beyond.
And they will teach that stuff.
I understand that's what they're saying. But I'm just saying that why start at the dumbing down of public education and moving up from that point? Why don't you set a higher point to begin with and then move higher from there? Why do you have to dumb it down so low? Because they're it's a national standard, so they want more of the children in the nation to be able to make the standards.
How would they set that highest start off?
Come up with your own local standards. There's other standards out there. It's not like you have to reinvent the wheel, and it's only a minute part. And there's other things that already exist out there. I just don't get the concept that you have to dumb it all down. How is it benefiting children's education to dumb down the standards so that a majority of the children make the standards? How is that helping children's public education by dumbing down the standards to begin with? Why not set the standards far higher to begin with and go up from there instead of dumbing it down so that more kids. That's what it's all about. It's the dumbing down of public education.
I don't think the right word is dumbing down. No, basically.
I'm gonna say move the question.
No,
we can sit here and do this for hours. Move the question.
Because they sit in front of a computer and they go backwards.
Oh, I know that.
So what is that?
Can I move the question?
Move the motion.
Yep. Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Oh gosh.
Abstained?
Abstained.
I have to abstain because I wanted to amend the motion, and I thought it would be an opportunity to compromise, get our message across that.
So make a motion.
Well, the first motion would be.
Well, you did make a motion.
I did, but it hadn't got a second. My compromise, and I think that it would accomplish two things: would allow you to go forward with your plan, and it would allow us to send the message that the Common Core standards can be improved upon. We don't endorse the Common Core standards, so the compromise would be, we want a better plan, and they can provide the better plan based on the Common Core standards. I know they can. They have the ability.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we do not endorse the Common Core standards.
I would second that motion.
Motion second, all in favor?
Wait a minute, we already had one motion on the
Right,
floor.
Right, and the vote
We already voted on that.
Well, it failed
What?
because there was one of you, two
Right.
against,
And
and
two
two abstentions. So your motion failed. So my new motion came forward, and it got a second.
Okay. Instead of not endorsing it, what are we?
We're just saying that we know there's a better way. By not endorsing it,
Does it make a difference to you if we say we don't endorse it but we accept it? What's the difference?
No,
But they're going to continue the same way?
Right.
I think the message is that we expect them to give us a higher curriculum based on the Common Core standards.
So make a motion for that.
I'll second your motion. All right.
No, that's a better way of saying it.
That's a better way of saying it. And is that'd work.
Yeah, because what you're going
How
to
does
see.
that work?
Because we're telling them that we like the idea of the basis of Common Core, but we want it to be more creative and more,
Well,
not creative, you said it right.
I can't, I wouldn't be able to agree that I agree with the basis of Common Core, because
Well, how
that's
about
That's the way
totally,
to compromise, Steve.
totally how I totally
Brandy, did you
do
take
not.
that motion down? Can you repeat that?
All right, so if I was to make a new motion for the board to consider, it would be to ask.
Great. Thanks, Brandy.
It's a great conversation.
She has a blank piece of paper.
I can actually take notes.
Thank you for that, Brandy.
We needed that. That's fantastic.
So
Come on.
my motion would be to ask the administration to continue to use the Common Core standards as a base, develop a curriculum that exceeds the Common Core standards.
I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
For reasons I believe we understand.
Well, that's only part of it. Let's move on. It's totally, it's sad, but, you know, I guess that's what it is.
Without a solution to offer, Steve, what can you offer as a solution?
There are other models out there.
Okay.
This isn't like you have to reinvent the wheel here. There are other models available now.
But look at our
didn't put it
administration
on
and
the
what they're
table.
asking of us. They're asking us to follow this. They're asking us to trust them that they're gonna develop it successfully for our students.
And so you want your children's educational record to be data mined?
That's the
My
next.
They're not
children-
seeing that.
That's the
though.
next discussion.
My children graduating from high school have a digital portfolio that they need upon completion of Spalding. And whether Hayden and Clinton are boys or girls, it's already in there.
Okay.
And how you live is how you live.
It's a sad
a
state
choice.
of affairs in public education with Common Core, but,
Who was the first and second on that one?
do we even
Tony
wanna?
Ralph.
Yes,
Huh?
yes, because that is directly related to the data mine. You're moving on to the next agenda item, which would be.
Well, yeah,
smart
but it's
balances.
all intertwined with Common Core. So, you know.
But if we don't discuss it, we don't fully understand it. I don't fully understand it. I didn't realize that this smarter balance assessment was part of the Common Core, and,
Yeah.
and it was, is the, I guess, the bank for data. I learned that tonight. So maybe
Yeah, it's all intertwined. It's all, you know.
and that plays on my fear that the big government, big bureaucracy is.
But why is a private company copywriting it?
Because they can make money off of it.
Right.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Just like textbooks, just like anything, just like building houses, just like whatever you chose to
Yeah,
do.
but wait a minute.
It's all about money.
Right, but if they're national standards from the government, why is the government allowing a private company to copyright these outstanding national standards known as Common Core? I mean, the government would be so fighting tooth and nail to hold it for themselves. But no, the whole thing smells. It's sad. It's a sad day in public education with Common Core. So, yeah, smarter balanced, data mining. Shall we talk about that?
I thought we already did.
Well, it's the next thing on the agenda. Mr. Fogg wants to discuss it.
Oh,
I just want to understand it fully before I form an opinion. I don't.
I was the one that said what exactly. We've already kind of what should we bother, but he wants to.
Well,
No, go ahead.
Is there
no.
information that the administration could offer me that?
As far as I know, they ask for the student's name and the school and the grade level, and that's it. As far as I know, that's the only screen that I've seen on Smarter Balance that asks for information from the student.
And you already know through past discussion that if you come across something that you feel would violate a child's privacy, infringe on something, we're going to ask you to throw a red flag up before you introduce it to the children, to second think it.
Yes.
Okay. Did they or did they not change the FERPA laws so that they could data mine? They did.
When did the FERPA laws get changed?
FERPA law changed.
With the data mining, apparently, you ought to really go online and try to research Common Core. I think you'd be probably shocked at what you're going to find.
Pros and cons to both.
That's right, but I haven't seen one positive thing that I can find about Common Core or Smarter Balance. I can't, and I've been doing this since, our meeting down there in October, at least. And I can't find one positive thing about the whole thing, but.
Can I ask a
Mr.
question
Claude.
about, the times that AWW, Jerry, the times that AWWA comes in and they send the children home with a
AWWA, Ralph.
What is that?
Acton Wakefield Watershed Alliance.
Okay.
Oh.
They come in and they,
That was the feds.
No, if you would have said AWAR, I wouldn't know what you were talking about, but you said AWWA. I'm like,
well,
what
it's a
the hell is that
non-governmental
acronym
organization.
for?
Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
They come in with the clear plastic
That's
bottles and they
WWF.
ask the kids to take the water, the container home, get a water sample, bring it back and this stuff. What bothers me is the information that's asked that goes along with the water sample. It's, how many kids are in your house, or how many people are in your home, what's the address, are you on a public water system, are you on a private well, what's the depth of the well, what's the, they're testing the water for radon and stuff like that, which is good health and safety issues, but does that information go into the data mining that may be happening with the Smarter Balance? Is every aspect of a student's life in the school, in the public school system, is it being banked and analyzed and followed? I mean, I would advocate privacy, and when that happened in my household, I was outraged. Why does the government need to know how deep my well is, where it's located, where's my septic system, things like that. That's really, it's.
Because they need all the resources when they come in.
Did something like that really go home from here?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've seen it before, but maybe it has.
It
I haven't
did.
seen it. I mean, it doesn't mean it.
So if something like that went home, I would think that would be something that a marker would go on and it would be like 001 is this child, 002 is this child, and that would stay here, and all that other private pertinent information would not go, I would hope, would not go back to that.
I would have to look into it, but I don't know.
I can definitely tell you what would happen if that was the case with Mr. Gregoire as the principal. Is my phone would be ringing with Mr. Gregoire on the other end going, there is this organization coming in to, provide water bottles to the students to take home and for samples and bring that back to source.
Has that happened, Ralph?
It has happened, yes.
Oh,
I would get
like
a call
this year?
and I would
No,
start
not this year. It has not happened this year.
I
And
would
I
start
think it was
questioning that.
actually 2 years ago.
and say no until we had
Yeah.
all of the information prior to saying yes.
So that's what I
That's
mean,
how
you know.
that's how we operate.
Okay, so that type of information coming from a student would not be put into the data bank and would not be used as a tracking or anything like that. I mean, I guess
I don't know what that organization does with their
Acton
information.
Wakefield Watershed Alliance, they're basically studying the geology of the area lakes and the lake effect, and we live in a lake community.
Mm-hmm.
Some people still pull their water from the lake. Some people are probably still grandfathered and their sewer goes into the lake, and there are a lot of things that they deal with, and a lot of there are a lot of different scenarios when you live in a place with so many lakes and so many grandfathered properties and cottages and homes, and
yeah, but it's not all
maybe
around
it's
the lake.
something
And
innocent and not as
Yeah, but if it was only around the lakes, I would see where AWWA had a spot, but they're out, in the mountains and hills of Wakefield.
well. There's watershed there too. I don't know. I would
I'm
probably
suspicious of the
send
data
home a
mining.
note that said call me with my phone number, just like I would for the math teacher who sent estimation pages home for my child's
All right.
mortgage or car payment. I would be like, no, call me.
I guess I believe you've said there is a red line that
Yeah.
doesn't get crossed.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I find comfort in that statement.
2 minutes.
You may want to, I don't know, if people start looking at smarter balanced assessments, because they're a problem in themselves, so.
Okay.
School board business policies.
Sorry if we ask Mary, can She doesn't need to stick around for the policies.
Nope,
No.
nope.
Thank you, Matt.
Take care, thank you, Mary.
He's happy to leave.
Yeah, we're done abusing you tonight. You can go.
No, I really appreciate the fact that you're passionate about the students' education in Wakefield, so I give you kudos for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Can't beat
Can we
that.
do these all in lump sum?
I would be, yes, I would love that.
Lump sum, like your mortgage?
Yeah, yeah. That was a good one, Norma Joy.
Thanks.
I guess,
Jump right into it, Bonnie.
Come on, Bonnie, you've done this before.
you know, we're looking to approve policies EBBD, indoor air quality. We're looking to remove policy EGA, school district internet access for students. We're looking to approve GBCD, background investigation and criminal records checks, IMGA, service animals, JFACC, tuition expenses for Wakefield residents, and to review JICI.
Was that a motion?
Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll make a second to Bonnie's motion. Do I need to repeat it?
No.
No.
Good.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Committee reports, I believe we,
So,
yes.
with JICI, that dangerous weapons on school property is for review.
It's for review, yes.
That's for the discussion at the full board. So there wasn't an action on that.
Nope, that was just for review, and you were looking up the national, you were looking up something
Yeah.
for us on that and coming from the last policy meeting?
No, that was just a matter of, you wanted to bring it to the board for full discussion. We had a discussion around what our
that's right,
attorney
yep.
had stated and what your opinions are about that.
Well, well,
So this was for discussion. at the full
well,
board.
yeah, but I don't, that's something, we'd have to do that in non-public.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a
Yes.
public policy.
So would you like to table it and we can bring it to the next non-public? Or do it this evening? We don't.
If this policy is, this policy is published in our policy book, right? I mean,
Right.
anybody can.
Right, but there's a safety, security piece to it that I don't really believe should be discussed in public.
And just point that piece to it.
That will, this is part of it. It's, I believe it's .22 in the end of that. And you didn't put that in the motion, right?
No, I just said that it was up for review.
Okay, so I thought of the motion, but, yeah, I
Well,
would.
so if the motion was approved, we're supposed to review it.
Well, no, she didn't add that into the motion. She left this one out.
Yes, it
Yes, she
read
did.
them all.
was in the motion.
Yeah, to review it. I made
It's in it.
a motion to approve EBBD,
Yeah,
GBCD,
yeah,
IMGA,
yeah.
JFACC, to remove EGA, and to review JICI.
Well, how are we
And
gonna-
this is-
How are we gonna, wait a minute, but
Well,
how are we gonna do that though?
Well, isn't this the question that we have?
Yes.
So that's gonna, I don't think that has to be non-public,
I don't either. I don't see a
Well,
section in
I
it.
think it,
because it's gonna, because it affects them and they're gonna wanna know. The whole issue is security.
We, at the last policy committee meeting, we had this discussion.
Yes, we did.
Right. And therefore, that wasn't disclosed because of that. So why do we not, if we decided last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, that that should have been done in non-public, and therefore,
I
it wasn't
don't
the-
think that we said it was non-public. I thought we were gonna bring it to the full board because we didn't wanna make a decision, just the two of us.
Correct.
No, there was also discussion about discussing that in a public forum.
I don't remember that part, but okay. You're probably right.
It's-
I don't remember that part. I just remember that we were bringing it to everybody because we didn't wanna
Right,
make the
right.
decision on our own.
Right, but it was discussed, and I can explain it to you better, and, you know.
Can we just move it to non-public?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
I think we, what motion?
Bonnie's motion to move it into non-public.
Is that a motion? I don't think you even need a motion.
No, she just has to move it.
Yeah, it's just moving on.
We just voted to review it, so now if we're not gonna review it, we need to make an official motion to move it into non-public.
We're gonna review it.
I'll second Ralph's motion to move it into non-public.
Was that a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, you second it, motion,
Yep.
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Committee reports, I think we just did policy, and we did facilities earlier on, the kitchen roof, replacement. The heating loop, and we got an update on the snow removal from the roof. Public comment. So,
Steve, you weren't on the committee for the calendar?
Javi?
You weren't on the committee for the calendar? It's always been the 3 chairs, the union reps, and administrators. No?
It's always been.
It's always, well, as long as I've known, it has been. So they have input from everybody, and then they have the Rochester calendar to kind of coordinate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Something else I thought about you having this common core discussion. How do you get information from Mr. Jersey about what happens in Concord? How do you keep the board informed?
A lot of it is the school board association sends us notifications.
Well, I mean, what he finds out at meetings. He doesn't have anything when you get to the SAU to tell you about the meetings he's attended, you know, what's going on with Common Core or anything else. I just wonder how you get that information.
He talks to us.
Not at a public meeting.
Well, just because we're on the board doesn't mean that we necessarily always have to talk to our superintendent in a public meeting. You know that. You can have a conversation with him and get information pushed to you whenever you want it.
Well, I know, but I'm talking about the board, not individuals.
Well, we are individuals first, and each individual might find what they need to know for information different.
Yeah, but there'd be questions you wouldn't even think to ask.
Of course there are. But there is for everybody. But it's, I don't know, he speaks to us.
It just seems odd that he doesn't have a report. Okay. One question I have is, why are we paying more to send our students to Kingswood than Middleton will be paying? Next year, the amount budgeted is $12,040 for our students. And if Middleton's warrant article passes, they'll be paying $10,948, which is a difference of $1,092 per student. And with the 16 budgeted students, it'd be $17,412. I'm just wondering why what we pay would be different than what Middleton would pay.
It's a different district. They're different taxpayers. They've raised and appropriated funds in their own system that aren't related to our system. When we raise and appropriate funds for our student tuition, it's based on the numbers that Spalding or that Rochester gives us, you know, to pay. So during the process, we calculate how many students we need to raise and appropriate funds for based on the number that Rochester gives us. That's the money that's the voters either say yay or nay at the ballot. So because that's the number that we raised and appropriated for, that's the number we need to spend, from my understanding.
It's determined by the percentage of increase over the appropriated overall general fund balance from the preceding year, excluding SAU expenses, plan operations, etc. So why wouldn't this formula apply to every district, every sending district?
Yeah, I'm not. Can you give that to us in writing so that we can look into it? Mr. Tercey could look into it, and we can give you an answer.
Because I'm not understanding that.
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't
Yeah,
answer that without
absolutely.
seeing it.
I'll email all you with this.
Well, if you email it to Mr. Tercey, he can
Okay,
he
that's
can then
fine.
tell us his information he
But
finds
it
out.
just seems strange to me that the formula is the same, so why would we pay a different amount?
Why does Middleton have a different tax rate than Wakefield?
It has nothing to do with the tax rate, Ralph.
It's, what I'm trying to say is it's two separate towns that do conduct business on two separate.
There's a formula in Rochester too. They don't just pull a number out of the air.
Right.
The same formula applies to Rochester. That's how it's determined what we pay Rochester.
Right. And so when Kingswood Regional says to Middleton, you have X amount of students, they apply the same formula that Rochester applies to Wakefield, or they have a different formula?
They have a different formula depending on what their percentage of increase was over the past year.
So would that answer your
Of
question?
money.
Would that answer your question? They have a different formula?
No.
Okay. I thought it did.
And one, I know you voted down the Common Core, but maybe I could suggest going to the website, just type in Nashua teachers. They took the standard Smarter Balance test, and you can get the reactions to it right straight from the teachers.
Yep, we
Might
read
be a
that.
good
I've actually
resource
read
for
that
you.
already.
All right. I have a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A32C tuition request.
What's security? You have to go into security too because you're discussing
Oh,
security.
yeah.
I believe it's aye.
I think it is too.
I got it right here.
It's not on there, Bonnie.
It's not?
Nope.
RSA.
Make a new one.
It's not, security's not on here.
Make a new one, give a copy.
I know. I have to make a new one. Aye.
Aye.
So, C and I, tuition request and security.
I'll make the motion to go into non-public, pursuant to RSA 91-A, semicolon 3, 2, C and I.
I'll second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Fog aye.
See you, aye.
What about aye?
Joy, I.
Brown, yes. Thank you for coming.